Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 266.
Yeah, that's what it says, 266.
I'm not sure as I'm giving you the eye as I'm looking.
As you're the one that actually created the little thumbnail and updated the description.
I know, but that was hours ago. So we are here, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, alongside Johnny V. I am making a very, very brief return here to the U.S., just taking care of a little bit of my stateside business. Soon, Croatia, Thailand, other places to be. But for now, I'm here with you.
I'm going to Panama City, Florida.
Ooh, okay. When are you doing that?
Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's cute. Okay.
Gonna bring the family. Our company is probably, at this point, it's looking good, acquiring a title company in that area. And so we're going to be doing it the 1st of December, which means I'll have to be there the last week to make sure everything gets migrated properly. So I'm going to bring the family down there. We're going to spend Thanksgiving together in Florida. Maybe I'll actually get a little disc golf in down there with that weather.
Yeah, that sounds great. And it's funny you were talking about Florida because I was firming up some plans myself to be flying in and out of Florida a few weeks before you, though. So, but that's for a whole nother story, a whole nother... No, it's not quite as exciting. Well, yeah, it is. It's actually way more exciting, but that'll be for another podcast. So we are glad you guys are here. It's been, has it been a couple of weeks since I've been here now?
It has, yes.
It feels like it was just yesterday, unfortunately. But back here, last week, of course, I was in Norway, and what an incredible time. I know I didn't get a chance to talk about it too much. I'm not going to go over every single 23-meter ace that was recorded or all the other amazing things that happened, but it was seriously just one of the greatest times I've had overseas. I've been so blessed to be working abroad here in the last year, going to a number of countries, and this was my second time ever to Norway. I was brought there for the Sula Open in 2013. I got to hang out a little bit with Nate Doss, Valerie, along with Avery, Charlie Mead, and the crew over there. Jostein was running that event. Well, this time I was here for the PCS Open, and just to put this out there, and of course this is not that I'm throwing shade, but to put this out there for how incredible this event is, Eagle McMahon won the event. Spoiler alert: he won the event.
16 strokes,
something like that. It was a healthy win. He took down Avery Jenkins, who has also won this event in the past. But Eagle McMahon won more money for this C tier. I'll use air quotes for our audible listeners, for this C tier than Paul Macbeth took home for winning the Green Mountain Championships.
There were some people that were asking, like, why? I think Nate and Val maybe even asked, and this was probably behind the scenes because I don't believe that it was in public, but they said, why would Eagle skip Green Mountain to go to this, like, C tier overseas? And I think I was kind of just briefly saying, like, well, it's an opportunity to go overseas, which is always cool. And GMC is a great event, as everybody knows. But if I had the choice to go play GMC for a second or third time, or go to Norway, even play the same event for a second and third time, regardless of payout, I would choose to go overseas. It's a whole different life and experience, and I think that is what it was. I don't think Nate was in agreement of that. I think Nate would have preferred to take care of the pro tour and make sure to do that, but that's a different mentality as opposed to maybe what Eagle was thinking.
Well, and of course, Eagle had a little bit of influence from Avery, who's been there now for all 4 years the PCS has existed, and has been told of the experience that's there, that it's a great course, that of course the payout is great. But you hit the nail on the head, really, when you say you were in Norway, or he or we were in Norway. Like,
I'd go for some, ancestry. Go check out go check out the Norwegians and maybe try to find some.
Oh, I had a Viking helmet on at one point. Completely sober. Of course, I had a Viking helmet on, and Espen may or may not have had his shirt ripped off. But I don't know. I didn't rip it off.
Sure.
But nonetheless, it was a tremendous time. It is, of course, too bad that it fell on the same weekend and ultimately conflicted with the GMC this year. And as some people had asked me, how did it come about with me being involved with the Pro Tour and such? Well, when I had those conversations and the PCS opportunity had come about, SmashBoxx was very much still in limbo and really not even a hired factor of the Pro Tour again for this year, which is why you saw me at a number of events this year instead of Pro Tour events, because when that news was broke to us late last year, I went ahead and made a lot of other plans and had a lot of other opportunities that came about. And I just cannot thank Brage and Seifert and Uran and everyone else, including Avery, of course. Just what an amazing time. Some other day, maybe I'll have an hour-long podcast dedicated just to breaking down that event, because it was truly that awesome. And unlike, I think, a lot of people that get to go to Norway, we spent the next 3 days after the tournament playing Plinko all the way down the southwest side of Norway. So that's where all of the fjords, not all, but that's where a lot of the fjords, islands, all those other things. I think in one day we were on 3 or 4 different ferries. So, you're driving for 2 hours, then you get on a ferry for 20 or 30 minutes, and then you keep driving, and we found some of the most remote courses in the entire country, stopping in Malloy, and just, again, I could go on and on. But thank you. It was an incredible event. If they've already said next year they want to know what the schedule looks like here in the States, and then they hopefully will be able to plan accordingly.
That's a great
to not
question.
directly conflict.
What is our schedule going to look like next year? Like PDGA, Disc Golf Pro Tour. Get your act together. People need to make plans. It's
I've got
September.
Norway to get back
almost
to.
October. Let's get this wrapped up.
Bro, I got C tiers to put on my schedule, all right?
Yeah, you heard it here first. The C tiers take priority. So if you could release the C tier schedule.
C tiers in Norway that are the PCS Open, yes, they will take precedence, because it's that great. So hopefully we will see that, and that's another discussion point where everyone's kind of, well, maybe not everyone. Of course, this year still needs to wrap up, but with some anticipation, we're kind of waiting to see how is the Pro Tour going to get scheduled next year, the majors, the National Tour. I think we're going to see some different National Tour events than we've seen in the last few years. I think we're going to still have 6, but we're going to lose a few and we're going to gain a few others.
CDGA tends to do that. We've seen the Brent Hambrick jump in and out on occasion, and I don't know if that's what this particular one is, but we've seen Delaware step in and out. So I'll be curious to see what happens with the PDGA next year.
Yeah, and I know that in reference specifically to the U.S. Women's, we've even heard some conversation about it's, I believe, way over on the West Coast. I believe it's in California.
It is.
And it's at a somewhat not customary, not traditional time frame. Is that correct? It's not in September?
I think it's earlier in the year.
Like maybe a May or a June or something like that?
I don't know if it's that early.
Maybe there's some Googling we could do. But
Christy Moore usually is very good about that on the board. She was talking to us about it before, I think.
Yeah, so that is something that, if that kind of adjusts or challenges, the scheduling and or the players' routes, that will be something that we'll have to see as that unfolds.
I think there's going to be a little bit of, or a lot of, hubbub and discussion regarding the fact that my understanding is that it is away from where the normal tour is, and that we're going to see people have to fly out there or make some really long treks to the USWDGC next year. So I wouldn't say it's all speculation, but it's still early on that. So we're going to kind of keep our eyes peeled, keep our shoulder to the grindstone. I don't know what all the ears to the tracks. I don't know. There's a lot of things we can do. We've got a lot of body parts, and we're going to work on all of them.
Well, I'm not going to go there. Of course, tonight we're going to have Scott Stokely. This news better be big, or there's going to be some disappointed folks out there. Scott has not been short of promoting the fact that he's going to join us tonight and that he's got some really exciting news. I have a pretty good idea of where we're headed and what's going on, and I am excited to have him share his news with the world. He, of course, we've seen him. Johnny V and I grew up watching him as he was one of the top players in the game, battling right there with Kenny and Barry, and even prior to seeing Barry, who was kind of our home state hero. Scott had made a name for himself before we even saw Barry out there dominating the way that he had, or was making his pushes and his runs. And then Scott, of course, stepped aside for a few years. We saw him resurge a few years ago then. playing along with the likes of Jeremy Colling and challenging Paul McBeth. Came back playing some really good golf, getting disc golf tattoos, doing all that kind of stuff, fully committing. Of course, working himself into a role and being an advocate with the Blue Power events and promoting his events and demonstrations with kids with special needs of any kind. And so he's had quite a history. And so we're excited to see kind of what's in the next chapter for Scott Stokely. So we'll be talking with him in just a little bit. But of course, outside of me returning from Norway with PCS news, we shifted right into this huge event here in the States, and then having an international superstar in Kristen Tatar take down the U.S. women's this weekend. How exciting.
It was really exciting. I watched some of the Facebook Live feed. I watched UDisc intently. I wouldn't say I made a wager, but I might have gone out on a limb slightly and said right before the last round that I felt Paige Pierce was going to end up winning by 3 strokes.
How'd that work out for you?
That did not work out for me. It was awesome to see Kristen win. She plays some phenomenal golf. She's a pleasure to watch because she's just so accurate with her drives, and it was fun to watch what we could with what we were provided.
Yeah,
it was great.
I'm
very, very happy for her.
Thank you to UDisc. Jomez Pro, I believe, was there doing the post-production. It was awesome to see such a turnout, and I believe it was record-breaking. I saw 166, I saw 169, and I saw 170 for numbers. Whatever the number was, it was in that neighborhood of 166 to 170 for their turnout. I readily admitted on Friday that I had this kind of fear of missing out. I've been to a number of the U.S. women's events at the U.S. United States Women's Disc Golf Championship specifically. I've been to a ton of women's-based events to help film them, but specifically the USWDGC. In fact, I posted a picture, I think it was on Facebook or Instagram, of me helping out and kind of having a media-type role before I was in media, having a media-type role in like 2005 or 2006. The PDGA, I'm going to say I think they offered me, the going rate was $35. And I think I was required to take a handful of photos. And I don't remember if I had to write an article or not, but I think I might have had to. And that was the pay. And I was ecstatic. That was, again, 2005, 2006, somewhere in that neighborhood. I also, one of the years when I was there, they were just getting started with the idea of doing live scoring. And guess where the live scoring struggled in Peoria? Any idea? What course it might have struggled on?
Northwood.
No, Northwood.
Probably McNaughton.
Yeah, McNaughton, which to this day, we still can't have live broadcast from because the signal is so terrible out there. So pretty funny, kind of a little bit of a flashback, but I think back to those were some of the earlier days. U.S. women started, I believe, in 1999, and it's just been an incredible journey. And thanks to Mom and Old Man Wallace and the entire Peoria Frisbee Club, they all were so caring of that event. And then finally, after they held it for 6 or 8 straight years, it then started to be bid out and went all around the country. And to have it show up all these years later, over now on the East Coast to the venue it was at this weekend, so just incredible. So with that, I'm going to just quickly spoil it. Our giveaway for later, Kristen Tatar famously throws a Saint Pro. She throws a lot of blue and white discs, or blue or white. So tonight's giveaway is going to be a Saint Pro. It happens to have my logo on it, but it's a Saint Pro.
And if you're interested, if you don't happen to win this, I believe I saw that Latitude had a big sale on all the products or all the discs that are in Kristen's bag. So I think there's like a
pure. I
think it's 99% off, but don't quote me on that. So talk to Latitude about that.
Just go out and buy them all. Support Kristen Tatar, Estonia Disc Golf. Just an awesome moment. And I know there was discussion as to when we last saw an international player take down either a major or a national tour, so on and so forth. And I saw Brian Honegger, Guru, say he believes that might have been the largest event since Brigida won Worlds in 2004.
Lagerhorn? Yeah.
And she won the World Championships over in Iowa. So pretty incredible.
Awesome.
All right. So in just a few moments, we're going to have Scott Stokely join us. It looks like he's hanging out in our Disc Baron Digital Green Room. And if you're ready, we'll see if he's ready. And if so, I think we're going to get to the news. Scott Stokely is joining us from Colorado. Scott, how you doing, buddy?
How's it going?
Great. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you guys very much. Super happy.
Really excited to have you. It's been a little while since you've been on the Smashbox proper. We've worked together on quite a few different things. The Disc Golf History and Legends podcast.
Getting the Blue Power information out
all
there,
the Blue
supporting
Power information, all that stuff. We've been together for a little while here. So you have been teasing some announcement for the past 10 days, 13 days,
3 months.
I'd have to go back into Facebook and look at all my notifications I keep getting.
Yeah.
So you've got some big news for us, but before you get to that, I am going to your history and background and knowledge surpasses probably 99% of us and our viewers. So let me ask you quickly, what do you make of, what are your thoughts hearing 170 women over in Fredericksburg and a woman from Estonia taking down the top FPO division, in addition to Elaine King winning some more, as she likes to do? But what do you make of where we're at in our sport on the FPO side?
Well, first, when you say I have a broad knowledge base, what you mean is I'm old. So I can read between the lines there. I mean, this is what we dreamed of when the sport started. We wanted it to be global. I mean, Brigitta, like we mentioned, like her, like that was huge. There were some amazing Swedish players back in the day. Canadians, of course, Sullivan and Elaine are the obvious, Jeff Malton. But it's not even now. It's just continuing to grow. It's what we always dreamed would happen. I mean, we talked about this 20 years ago with you guys, that this is what we saw happening. It's the best thing that could happen in the sport. And to be from another country that's newer to the scene, like that is so big for disc golf in that part of the world. It's immeasurable. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's we have, of course, more women playing than we did, back in your heyday. However, the percentage isn't necessarily increasing like we'd like to. Hopefully, somehow we're going to work with more women, work with more marketing, work with the youth. I don't know where that all has to come from. As we always say, we're a bunch of guys sitting around trying to figure out how to get more women to play. But somehow we got to get it figured out, because moments like this are just so exciting, like you said, for our sport.
In Estonia, it was pretty big news. Someone from over there was saying how it was making some of their newscasts and things like that.
That's awesome. Well, good.
Well, it should. I mean, we're not a fringe sport. I mean, we're not this huge mainstream thing, but we're also not this little group of people over here doing this thing. No one knows what we're doing. I mean, it's the natural evolution of things. It's what's supposed to happen. We are global. Frisbee disc for the kids is universal. It doesn't have borders.
No, well, it's awesome to see. So again, sorry for the sidetrack, but not, because
no, it's great.
We love seeing it. So, what in the world? Well, let's back up. We saw you kind of come in hot and heavy as you made your return. We saw you playing some events, playing very well when you pick things back up. And then, next thing you know, we're kind of seeing you post from an office. Everyone thought you sold out or something. You're posting from an office, trying to recruit people to come work with you at some amazing software company. But what kind of catch us up to speed from the last 2-3 years here?
Well, I was on the road for 2.5 years running Blue Power events and playing tournaments. I did win a bunch of Masters tournaments. I won an 8th here in the Open Division, which I've said to this day, I won by 12 strokes, and there was Ulibarri and Matt Dollar, Drew Gibson. 3 of my heroes were playing at that tournament, and I felt like that was not about me. That was more a testament to just how good the players were in the 90s, when an old man can come out of retirement and still have a good weekend. Even if all 3 of those guys beat me 19 times out of 20, I was good enough to pull together for 2 days, right? And that meant that we were good back when I played. It was all of us. So I was representing my fellow old people. Yeah, and then I was tired of being poor. And I found out that I was good at selling software, and apparently when you're good at selling software, they pay you a lot more money than the really smart people who build the software. And I did that for a little while. So it's all just the next step, the next evolution.
Okay. Do you so software sales, are you saying you don't feel like is your future?
No, oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It was a stepping stone to not being poor. And you know, I've met someone that I'm hoping to go back out on the road with. That's not the announcement. At some point in the near future, I have big, lofty dreams. My end goal is to go out on tour, and then I was about to say someday die on tour. Like my goal isn't to die, but when my daughter's off at college now. There's nothing keeping me in Colorado except that I met a woman I'm very much in love with, and I don't want to part ways with her, and she can't go for a little while. But when she can, my goal is to go out and hopefully never come home. My home is on the road.
Awesome.
So that's my dream.
Swing by Wisconsin, visit your daughter.
Yeah,
you know, go up at Lawrence University, a couple hours, 2 hours north of us.
Yeah, literally blocks from where Johnny and I grew up, not far from Lawrence. So the tie is there. So all of this background, all this knowledge, all this information, you've done podcasts, you've written books, you've won tournaments.
DVD series,
VHS and DVD
and
series.
And now you're doing some online coaching for people. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do lessons. I do video lessons for people all over the country. I do almost a lesson a day by video. I'll plug it. Message me to my Facebook page. I will make you a better disc golfer in 90 minutes, or else I'll mail you your money back. But that's never happened because I'm really good at this.
Okay. So with all that knowledge, all that information, that sounds like a pretty good money back guarantee. All of that, what does that lead you to?
Okay, so this is my announcement. This was not a gag. This was not a prank. This is something that, aside from Blue Power, maybe what I'm possibly, when I look back, maybe it's something that I'm the most proud of anything I've done in the sport. I'm really excited, and I'm going to announce it, but I need to start by sharing 2 disc golf stories that are important to set the premise. I mean, if everybody listening was the people I played with in the 90s, this is unnecessary, but a lot of people are younger. So I want to tell 2 quick stories, and then I'll tell you how this all ties together. So the first story took place in 1976, and I was 7 years old. My dad had just passed away, and my mom, like any other good mom, would occasionally take me to the local parks. You know, I don't know, I don't recall, but, you know, once a week or something, she would take me to a different park. There were parks that had the best climbing trees, and there was the park with the biggest swing set, I remember. And there was also this park that had a Frisbee golf course. That course, of course, was Oak Grove Park, the world's first Frisbee golf course. Disc golf now, it was the first Frisbee golf course in 1976. And that was just another activity to do in the park. And I don't know, I have no way of recalling if I played it a month after it went in the ground or 4 months later. But a couple times a year, I would visit there for the Frisbee golf course. No idea of the significance, the history, how important it was. Maybe no one knew back then.
Did you know it was new?
I don't recall, but I don't believe so. I don't think that I thought of it as something. I mean, I was a kid. It was just a thing to do in the park. It could have been a merry-go-round. It was just an activity. But if you lived in that town and you were a kid, you probably played. I mean, almost certainly you played Frisbee golf. So, second story, I'm going to fast forward 25 years later. I'm in Miami. I'm at the Amateur World Championships. I was doing clinics and demos representing Discraft. Believe it or not, even in 2001, I was the only person out there doing clinics and demos all around the country. It was still that new. I had just come off 2 second places and a 4th place at the PDJ Worlds. I just had my Guinness World Record for the longest throw broken. I set the record for the longest throw sidearm, but I was at the tail end of my career. I retired very shortly after. And ironically, at the event in Miami, I was at the tournament hotel when Pat Govang, the commissioner at the time, pulled up to the tournament hotel where I was staying with Ed Hedrick, the man who patented the pole hole. He didn't create Frisbee golf, but he owned the patent, and he's the godfather of our sport. I mean, that's ground zero, Ed Hedrick. And Ed was unable to get out of the car because he was experiencing chest pains at this event. And they rushed him to the hospital, and this is where Ed had his heart attack and passed away. This was in Miami, and I was there. And the reason I share these two events is because these are bookends to two, I think, really interesting stories. One for everybody and maybe one just for me, but there's two parallel stories here. The first story is the first 25 years of our sport, from the first course going into the ground at Oak Grove Park, and 25 years later at this event, which, again, it bookends the first quarter century of disc golf. The second story is my story of growing up in the sport. I always think I could probably I don't remember anything from the first 7 years of my life. So for all intents and purposes, my first 25 years I remember took place in the sport. I grew up alongside the sport. And as I look back over the past year with this project I've been working on, I've realized that my life and the sport of disc golf have paralleled each other incredibly closely. You know, I was a punk kid when our sport was a punk kid. And I was the rebellious teenager when our sport was a rebellious teenager. And I partied too much in my youth, just like our sport did. I cleaned up. The sport cleaned up. I became a professional within the sport as the sport was becoming a professional sport. And I didn't realize until this last year in this project I've been working on how much my life and my sports life have aligned. So I feel and have felt for the longest time that this was a really, really interesting story that could be told. Well, two stories, but they overlap. And right here, can't really see with very good lighting, but right here is 106,000 words telling the story, telling our story. And I say our because it's both of our stories. It's about to announce a release date, but this is the first biography of a professional disc golfer, which I think is interesting to a small number of people that follow me. But more importantly, it's the biography of the first 25 years of our sport. And I'm really excited because I ate, slept, drank, and lived these 25 years up until I retired in 2001. And now I'm going to get to share the story of our sport through my eyes. And it's something I'm extremely proud of. And I hope I do the sport proud and the people that founded this sport proud, because their story is my story. And so it's my announcement.
So
Wow.
you've written a book about the beginnings of our sport and frisbee or disc golf or whatever that may, however you want to call it, depending on when you reference the sport. Now, did you? I mean, you said 106,000 words. Is that what I heard?
Yes. You? Now, when I say wrote, I co-wrote with an author, a very good friend of mine named Aaron Rath, a brilliant author who I hope this puts him on the map, because he's published some books and hasn't gotten the exposure like many struggling writers, even though he's so talented. I'm hoping this gets him some exposure. So I didn't write my biography. I co-wrote my biography with a very close friend of mine who has dove into this for no money and just really wanted to be a piece of this thing that he felt was important, just like I did.
Incredible. Anyone, I think I could talk about disc golf a lot. I don't think I could write 106,000 words about it.
I bet you could. They're not going to be as good as his.
Clearly, as you set up, the parallels, and you talk about your history and your background, what was it that made it so obvious to you that you were going to dedicate this kind of time, energy, and effort to putting it all out there? I mean, we all have a lot of ideas about doing a lot of either small or large-scale tasks, but to sit down and do what you've done, to dedicate this kind of time to it, how did you know that was the right move for you?
Well, there's multiple reasons for it. The first reason, and I've never been ashamed of this, the first reason is ego. I want to be a permanent part of the sport's history. I am, whether or not I wrote this book, but it's very important to me that I am a piece of this sport when I'm gone. That matters to me. But one of the other things that I really wanted to do is, I said this many times, the sport is better now than it's ever been in 90% of the ways out there. I'm not one of these old people that says back in my day things were better. I mean, the sport is everything we wanted it to become and is becoming what we dreamed it would become. I mean, the prize money, the tour, the recognition, the women, the children playing, people not laughing at us and making fun of us for throwing frisbees in a park in our spare time. I mean, all these things are so important. But one thing that was lost with this was we did lose or are in the process of losing some of the family and community that we had before. Now, it's still a disc golf family. There'll still be a camaraderie among people who share a hobby, but that's nothing like it was when we were there. When we played, we were almost 100% misfits. I mean, Frisbee golf was created by people that didn't fit into other groups. Even the athletes were athletes that didn't fit the mold and fit the look, even though they are just as talented and just as skilled, just as dedicated as the people playing mainstream sports. Culturally, we didn't blend. We did blend with those other sports. And we played with toys in a park. We were grown men, well, kid at first, but then many grown men. Nobody understood what we were doing. Nobody could appreciate it. And so there was this bond between us of this shared struggle. It's like almost going through a bad experience, even though it was a beautiful experience, but we all had the exact same experience of people giving us weird looks when we told them what we did on our weekends. And there's a camaraderie that's never going to be there again. And that's something we've lost. To gain 10 things, we had to lose that. So that's a little bit wordy, but one of the things I'm hoping to do is I want to give a voice to the people in the sport. Now, this is not a chronological history. There's many people left out. Someday someone's going to write a history of disc golf far better than this. This is disc golf through my eyes. It's my story. But my story included a lot of very important people that I want to, if I can, I want to give a voice to them, and I want to put them as a fixture in the history. And that was one of my goals. A very wordy, lengthy way of saying this, but this is important to me.
Well, and that was going to be kind of exactly where I was going to go with my next question, which is so if it's not chronological and it's not meant to be a history book, is it? I mean, not entirely. Do you feel like this is your way of picking out, I'll say, your best stories and then making them their own chapters?
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you structured it?
It is chronological. I mean, it is my biography. That's what this book is. It is the Scott Stokely biography. But my life was incredibly shallow. So my biography didn't include many things that weren't Frisbee golf and eventually disc golf. And the stories, like as I'm going back, like, I mean, the amount of time I've spent trying to research my own life, it's very hard to do. Without the internet, it would be impossible. But I was there for some of the biggest moments in the sport. So I'll share a quick story. So I've said this forever. The biggest moment in the history of our sport, hands down, is when Ed Hedrick's pole hole first got put into the ground. This is the first time. Well, let me back up. Before the pole hole, in some ways, Frisbee golf was subjective. I believe I hit the pole between the tape. Mm-hmm. I don't think you did. Let's vote, right? The pole hole made it definitive black and white, you hold out. And by doing that, that meant whoever completed the course in the fewest amount of throws, and you could not argue who that person was, wins the tournament. So that's when we became a sport, when the pole hole went in. But the second biggest moment in the sport took place in 1983. So I was at Oak Grove Park, and Tim Selinsky, Dave Dunnepace, and Harold Duvall showed up. They pulled up, I believe it was a van, and they pulled up and they get out, and all the Oak Grove Gophers were sitting there. Joe Orsino, I think the Lissaman brothers, Russ Hamilton, were all there. I mean, we lived in the park. And they get out and they said, "Hey guys, check this out." And we walked over and they pop open a box. And inside the box was the eagle. Mm-hmm. Now, there had been, this is just a footnote in history, there had been a beveled edge disc that came out for a little while before the eagle. We called it the wedge. But that was like a lot of answers to trivia questions. The trivia answer is the wedge was the first beveled edge disc. The wedge didn't matter. The second biggest moment in the history of sport is when that box opened up and the eagle made its debut onto Frisbee golf. And I believe at that moment we went from Frisbee golf to disc golf. You know, the idea, like, you can't even wrap your head around the idea that you could throw a Frisbee, a disc, wasn't a Frisbee, 50% farther than you'd ever thrown before. You know, holes became obsolete. Courses became obsolete. Courses that had existed in multi-use parks where playgrounds and swing sets and bathrooms were obstacles, which was perfectly fine when we were throwing Frisbees. Like, oh, you get hit with a Frisbee, who cares? All of a sudden, those public use parks had to be phased out. It took decades to do it, you know, but the sport changed at that moment. And it was a part of history that I was, you know, 6 inches away from the box when it was opened up. And there's so many parts of our sport that I want to share that I got to see. So yeah, it's not a chronological history, but I lived that history. I lived that moment when our sport changed and our world's changed forever at that moment in history.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And in some ways, I feel very blessed that in current day, whether it's online or in person at some of the big events, I feel like I have some of those similar experiences and blessings. So I know exactly what you mean to see, you know, history unfold, and you may not realize it at the time, but then when you go back. Now, just to clarify for the youngins out there, the eagle that you're talking about and referencing is a far different eagle than what Greg Barsby's out throwing or Calvin Heimberg is out throwing.
Okay, sure.
And so, I just want to throw that out there because I know that Johnny here knows that, as do you. But the eagle back then, being the first beveled edge disc, fair to say, is more like the modern day arrow, correct? Like, for those that are familiar with an Innova arrow, not that those are overly popular either still.
Well, no, but see, at the time though, it was almost like if there were only 7 speeds out there, and all of a sudden someone came out with a destroyer or a
nuke.
Yeah,
like exactly.
But it wasn't even so much, and even that's not a good comparison though, because 7-speed discs, recreational players can come out and in a few months they can throw them 350 feet. People have technique now, YouTube videos to train. You know it. So before the Eagle came out, Frisbees were all understable. The closest thing to a stable Frisbee was the 40 mold or maybe the 50 mold, but it was still a little bit understable. Overstable discs didn't exist. Actually, the wedge was overstable, but again, I don't know. They probably made 100 of these things, right? They don't count. Overstable wasn't a thing. So the Eagle came out, and the guys at Innova, or as Champion at the time, were brilliant, because what they did is they made an understable beveled edge disc, and that's what the Eagle was. Soon after, it became apparent that we needed something stable, and they retooled the Eagle and made the arrow out of it. But back then, you didn't even make a brand new disc. You retooled an existing mold because molds cost money, and there weren't enough of these things being sold to even justify making a brand new disc at this point. So the Eagle was gone, retooled to make the arrow, which is a stable version of the Eagle. But I mean, like I said, you can't even put it into words. Go to Walmart, buy a Frisbee, and then go throw an arrow, and then that's the difference. That's what we were dealing with. It was great. And by the way, a lot of the stories, just so you don't think the book is all about these important things, a lot of the stories are about how, like, they call it the Wild West days. you guys know a little bit. It was the Wild West back in the old days. I mean, the stuff that took place at tournaments will never happen again. You could argue that they shouldn't ever happen again.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
You can make a pretty good case for that. But it was the early days of the sport. I compare it to baseball. Like, in the old days, professional baseball players would keep a flask of whiskey in their back pocket. They would slide on their right side so they didn't break their bottle, right? I mean, that was baseball in the early days. Well, Frisbee golf, disc golf, has origins that are every bit as colorful, with characters every bit as rich. I'll even say more so, because I think we have the best sport. Just my opinion.
Well, I mean, we've done just that. We've evolved and we've grown up and we've become very much, obviously, a professional. There is a professional side to it. There's still very much a recreational side to it. But even on the recreational side is kind of funny if you think about it. Joe Amateur, that just got introduced to disc golf yesterday, probably spent somewhere between $9 and $49. Got anywhere from 1 to 5 discs. Maybe or maybe not picked up a starter set with 3 discs and a $10 bag that possibly had a mini in it and a couple stickers. Like even the most recreational side, and went out and played with their flip flops. There's still a semi-seriousness to that, and it's incredible where we've started, and obviously now where we continue to grow. Now, your Stokely Doubles series, which could be compared to some of the other, traveling series that go on right now. Paige Pierce runs a Luck of the Draw Doubles, which is very, in a sense, similar to what you were doing back then. What was that, 97? 90?
I think the Discraft Double series was 96, 97.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so I would just have to assume that when you came to Appleton in 97 and you and I got partnered up and we won it, I assume that's in the book.
It
yes.
is now. It's in the director's cut.
That's a revision. Let me hold on.
Okay. Well, for what it's worth, I do have discs from when you came to Appleton, Wisconsin in 1997. You came, you did your clinic, and it was a flip, random draw doubles of sorts. And you and I ultimately got partnered up, and we ended up winning. I was an intermediate player, I think, at the time, 97 or so.
I'm sure you carried the team.
I did hold my own, and he did tell other people that. But again, it's all in the history books. Scott's book.
So let's talk a little bit about the actual logistics of the book. You said that there is or is not quite a release date yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
That's okay.
No, we have not announced the release date yet. We're going to be announcing this very soon. I mean, the book is complete. The book's been through its first edit. We have a release date. I tried to calculate the right amount of time to start the buzz and start the promotion, but I wasn't sure. I have no experience in doing this, so.
And that leads me to my next question. The book itself, in today's day and age, anybody, literally anybody can write a book, have it published on an e-publisher, have it put on Amazon. What does your distribution look like? Are we going to get like a hardcover?
Oh, yeah.
Are we seeing?
Oh, yeah. No, 100% hard copy, audiobook read by me. I've tried to almost talk myself out of it, and everybody says I have to because it's my story. So
I think it makes sense.
I will try to do that justice. No promises. I think the book's good. I can't promise my reading's going to be good, but it's going to be. I mean, this is not fly by night. This is completely legit. We got money going into it, and marketing and publishing, and like the whole works. It's like this is the real deal.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's funny you mentioned the Discraft Double series, because one of the things that I'm so proud of is I was going back through this book is the list of things that I was the first person to do in this sport. Okay, let me back up. Most of these things I wasn't the first person to do. I wasn't the first person to do a disc golf clinic. There was people that had done clinics, but I went to 155 cities, did a traveling clinic series. I did the traveling Discraft Double series where I traveled around the country running events on weekdays. I was doing private lessons. I was doing the instructional DVDs. I wrote the instructional book. It was interesting. It's a weird thing to actually evaluate your life and look back and then say, wow, this is something, like I could be really, really proud of this. I will also tell you this. I had decided before I wrote the book that I was going to be completely honest. So I had legal troubles when I was 19 years old. I actually, I went to I won the, here, another short story for you. I went to the World Overall Championships in Santa Cruz, and I won my first world distance title there. Came back to Pasadena on Monday morning and turned myself in and served the rest of the summer in a local prison. So that's here. And
you had that title. I mean,
you have to read the stories to get the details on that. But the book is a very honest look. It's not like, hey, look at all these cool things I did. It was like, look at this really cool thing I did. And then look at how badly I failed a month later. And as I got older, the failures got further and further apart, but they never went away. So I'm very honest with those things. Some of it's very embarrassing. I put it all out there.
Well, I think anyone that knows you or has been on the fringe of getting to know you would expect kind of nothing less. I mean, you
very
usually do
true.
put it all out on the line. You wear your heart on your sleeve, and that's obviously, I think, a very endearing quality. And to get things straight from the source, and to get the unadulterated the actual truth and nothing but the truth, I think people can really appreciate that.
Yep. Well,
Now,
the truth, it's the truth is through my eyes. There are, things are subjective. When I say something is the second biggest moment in the history of the sport, that's not truth. That's just as I see it.
sure.
One of the truths that's lacking, and I'll even point this out, is that I don't talk a lot about the women's game. I didn't live that. I talked about Elaine and Juliana, TDU Galdi, Beth Varish, some of the early pioneers that I love. In the book, and I'll even put this on the podcast, I want Juliana and Elaine to collaborate on a book together about the women's sport. I'll be first in line to buy that book. But I wasn't able to tell their story because I didn't live their story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't able to tell a lot of the stories from the East Coast. I mean, I mentioned Wisecup and Greenwell and Eric Marks and Mike Sullivan and Hosfeld. And I mean, I mentioned a lot of great people, but I didn't live their story either. So it's not a complete story. It's my story.
Getting back to some of the specifics, when you do release it, what are the exact forms of distribution that you see having it available to everyone? I mean, I know you just, like, someone's going to go into their local bookshop. Someone's going to have to exclusively get it from a number of sites or an Amazon, or how do all those things, have you figured all those things out yet?
Distribution into those channels is a challenge. So it's going to be absolutely available online in book form through Amazon. It's Audible and all the audiobook, the major sources. I mean, they've made it really easy for authors to come out and get themselves out there. It's just as difficult as ever to market something and get the word out about what you're doing. But the logistics of this are better than ever. You don't need a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody wants to write a book, message me. I'll talk to you about it. It's been a very simple process. It does not cost tens of thousands of dollars. It costs a fraction of that. So the barrier really is the ganas to go out and, by the way, I'm quoting Jaime Escalante, my hero, but having the desire to go out and do it and then not talk about it and do it. But that's the only barrier these days.
Do we have an official title?
Yes. It may change in the next couple days.
Okay.
So as of right now, the title is Scott Stokely Growing Up Disc Golf.
All right.
I like it.
I had a bunch of other titles out there that I thought were hilarious and amazing, and people I respected told me I was an idiot. So I'm going to.
Well, that's not the first time that's happened, and it won't be the last time. Okay, Scott Stokely Growing Up Disc Golf, and that's like great because it's Scott Stokely growing up and it's disc golf growing up. I have no problem with that. I think it's a good. I think it's a good title.
It's pretty good. And by the way, so I actually just launched my website, scottstokely.net, an hour ago. The deadline of doing that was this announcement. If you go to scottstokely.net, there's going to be a little thing where you can give me your email address, and I will notify you the second the book is out. So, in fact, the very first thing when you get to the website says to be notified when the book is being released. Give me your information. So, like I said, I don't have a release date. I wasn't sure how long I was supposed to put the word out, and I've been waiting months to tell people, and I haven't. And so,
well, give us like an estimate. I mean, I know it's it's near the end of September. I mean, are you thinking sometime in December? Are you thinking next June? I mean,
no. It's going to be something that everybody should buy for Christmas.
Okay, just like the PDGA DVDs and VHSs for the World Championships.
My deadline was, this is the business person in me, was that I wanted to make the Christmas sale deadline, and we accomplished that.
Okay.
It was hard.
How many more? To what degree and how many more revisions do you think that it will need to undergo?
No, it's done.
Okay.
It's done.
Like done.
Written. The only thing we're tweaking is grammar, and it's being read for continuity errors. I want to make sure it's historically as accurate as possible. A lot of that's easy to find on the PDGA website, but a lot of it involves, reaching out to people I haven't talked to in a long time, making sure the stories are right. I reached out to players about I'm sorry. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus on anything they did. Any of the sketchier stories out there, I asked permission for. Fortunately,
did anybody say no?
Yeah. Did anyone
did
say,
anybody say, yeah,
just
yeah? A few people with kids said,
okay,
please don't include that one part.
wow,
or don't name me.
Yeah, I did. Like I said, it's not a tell-all. I'm not gossiping, and honestly, the stories are good. If I don't care for somebody, and you guys have known me for long enough to know this, if I don't care about somebody, I just don't talk about them. I don't say bad things about people.
Sure.
I think that's gross. So some things may be omitted, but it's an honest story. The only negative things in the story are really things about me that I wanted to share because I feel like I have the right to say negative things about me if I want to, but I don't feel like I have the right to bash other people, so I don't. But and honestly, the stories, there's not a whole lot of negative stories out there. I mean, they're all funny stories, right?
Well, at least at one point they were funny to someone, right?
Well, they're funny now. I mean, so tournaments back in the 80s. When you went to a tournament back in the 80s, there was, and by the way, professional tournaments. I'm not talking about weekend warrior stuff. These are professional Frisbee golf / disc golf tournaments. There was no pre-registration, so you just showed up. Now, when you showed up to the tournament to play, if there were, there's usually only one course. If there were 120 people and there's sevensomes, you can't turn people away. People drove to the tournament, so you had sevensomes on the course. The tournament director would show up when they woke up. I mean, usually on time, but not always. If they had scorecards, that was a win. If they needed someone to grab scratch paper for their scorecards, they would grab those. There was a lot of indulging in partying on
recreation.
The course.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of recreation.
Let's just say on the course, people would drink and things, and that was what the sport was back then, and it was beautiful. And then if the course ran it late into, if we played the last 5 holes with flashlights, I mean, that's just what happened. And by the way, so prize money at these tournaments, and this is God's honest truth. If you had, let's say, 50 people showed up and paid $30 a piece, you expect there to be $1,500 in the kitty come Sunday because there were no players packages at most tournaments. You paid $1,500, and then come Sunday, $900 went out in prize money. And the reason it was $900 instead of $1,500 was the tournament director and maybe a couple of his friends spent $600 that weekend having fun. And you were competing for the money that was left over. And the thing was, that's not a negative story, though. Nobody was angry about it. I mean, you might have been like, that sucks, but it's not like you didn't come back next year because no one else wanted to run a damn tournament. The fact that somebody actually wanted to run a tournament was so amazing. Everybody showed up. Nobody complained. Or not enough to not play, and we certainly weren't angry. It's kind of just it was Frisbee golf. I mean, that's just what happened back then.
Well, and it was for lack of a better phrase, it was the only game in town. Like, you either played it or you didn't, and it's not like, there's another C tier 38 miles away that you can go check out. Like, if you loved it, you probably embraced all of it. Now,
you did. I mean, we just wanted to be together. And I mean this, like, we just wanted to enjoy one another doing this thing. I mean, the partying, the gambling, all these things were part of it, but that's not what it was. It was about us. It was about the people, and I mentioned 3 of the guys from Innova, right? I mean, these guys weren't part of the party scene. There were lots of people back then that weren't part of the party scene. They were close friends to the people in the party scene. Nobody cared that you didn't do something that you did. We didn't give a shit what you did for a living. We didn't care how much money you made. Like, we were all there because we were outcasts. Even the people that didn't look like outcasts, nobody in their families understood why they did what they did. They were still misfits. They just didn't look as misfitty as the rest of us, but we all were. And that was the thing that we all shared, and it was the love of the game. And even, like, I even say this, I mean, some of the disc companies that have formed have become big multi-million-dollar businesses and run by business people. But the people that founded these companies, I mean, they were playing for years and years and years for the love of the game, just like the rest of us. They just found a way to capitalize on it, but it was still love. It was still love of the game and love of each other. There, how's that for being a little sappy and on my soapbox?
No, it's our beginnings are beautiful. I'll forever believe that. There's still certainly, I guess it depends on who you're talking to and where they're at in their disc golf career as to how much of that beginning still is held within. Some people very much, want to argue about, we don't need a digital scorecard and we don't need to pre-register for tournaments and we don't need 1,000-foot holes. There's very much still that mentality and all the way to the people that are pushing it to the extreme ends, saying we're ready to put electronics in discs, so we can do all this other crazy stuff with them. I mean, it's just really where you're at, and it depends, I think, on your upbringing and your beginning and, how you've watched the sport develop and maybe even what age you are.
Yeah, I was going to say, you and I kind of grew up right in the middle, clearly, of what
we're in the sweet spot.
That's what everybody thinks, that they're in the sweet spot of disc golf in hindsight. Obviously, with Scott growing up early, you came onto the scene in 94.
93, yeah.
93. I started playing in 94. I started playing tournaments in 96, 97. 97 was my first event. We got to see and hear some of the people that I'm sure are going to make your storybook, and respect them and play with them. I remember the very first time I met you and saw you in Minnesota at was it North
Valley?
North Valley Park, and literally walking up to you when I was 19 and just standing there and said, "Scott, what do I do with my arms? Like, how do I throw far? I should throw far." And
you can get a lesson from him still.
I still can get, and I still need one. So, these are such great stories that I'm so glad that you're capturing and being able to share and show people where our sport came from. Because I do believe we've seen a lot of disc golf, not a lot. We've seen a few disc golf books, terminology,
real nuts and bolts history,
some real nuts and bolts history. But I don't think we've ever seen anything like this, and I'm excited.
I don't think so either.
And
I'll tell you guys,
hoping,
as we're talking about some of the richness, something that popped into my head, another story from the book. So at the 1987 World Cup in Santa Cruz, there was Jeff and Johnny Lissaman. I'm going to name a few of the players at the event and how they all tie together. So Jeff and Johnny Lissaman, who are in the Hall of Fame, Frank Aguilera, who had the world distance record at the time, Scott Moore, who had finished tied for first at the national championships and lost in sudden death, me, and a handful of other players. There were 8 of us. We rented a 1-bedroom hotel room for the weekend. The 8 of us slept in a room together, and not one of us at that time could afford to get a room by ourselves. And we're literally like the champions of our sport. And we're like, I got $6 for the weekend. You have $8. It was almost like that scene from Stand By Me where the kids are reaching in and one kid only had pennies. Like, that's what it was like. Okay, everybody pony up $12, and if you had 11, it was like, dude, really, go borrow $1 from somebody, because that's literally what touring disc golf was back then. I don't find those to be bad memories. Those are like the best memories of my life.
Yeah, well, so speaking of, I'll say memories and or age and growing up, you have a daughter that's in college.
Yeah.
If or when she reads this book, will she laugh? Will she cringe? Will she read it straight face? Like, what will her reaction be?
She thinks I'm crazy. I tried to screw her up as best I could, and then she's off at college with a physics scholarship, right? Like, I tried my best to, but I don't think she'll be surprised. One of the stories that she heard later on, though, was that, there was so many questions about why I quit, because my arm was hurt, my back was hurt, I was burned out. Like, I quit because my daughter was born, and I wasn't going to be on tour, and I never wanted to be the player that just kind of came out to sign autographs and hope to finish in the top 5. Like, that was never when I wasn't going to be competing, I was done. And when my daughter was born, at the time, my wife at the time, Christy, her mom, had very, very strong family ties in Colorado. And that was also my family. Aside from my mom, that was my family, right? So that was our family ties. And when she was born, Jim Kenner at Discraft, who I to this day is the single most important man in the sport. I mean, Joe Orsino was one of my heroes. I had a lot of Rick Schaefer, a lot of important people, but Jim Kenner was the most important person in the sport to me. And he said to me, he goes, Scott, he goes, you have a place at Discraft. And he was like a father to me. And so the opportunity to go out to Michigan, to be taken under his wing and to become an extremely important part of Discraft as he was getting older and moving on. I mean, I was in a position to do extremely well for myself, but I wasn't leaving my daughter. By the way, her mom and I had already split up at this point, but I wasn't leaving my daughter. And so if there's anything I would like her to take from it, is that when given the opportunity, I traded everything for her. And you know, that I hope, you know, I had some failures about 5 years ago, which you guys, you know, by the way, that'll be the second book. I had some failures and I failed as a father for a brief period of my life, but I want her to know that I gave up everything for her, and it was the best decision I ever made.
Okay. Well, it's, you know, what led me to that question, though, just thinking about, obviously Johnny and I both have kids, and I don't think our stories will quite rival what, you know, some of your early ones were, but just in general, thinking about, like you said, your challenges, the troubles that you've run into, the fun that you've had, and then anytime you have a child, thinking about, well, when it's all out there and it's completely public. Yeah, everything seems to be public with the internet these days, but I mean, you've put it down. You're signing off on a book stating, here's what happened. Yeah, obviously, that's just that open diary that will be out there forever. So that's what made me think as to how she would perceive it.
Yeah, well, there's two different stories. So this story ends in 2001. I have the intention of writing a second story because from 2001 till 2014, my life took some radical changes. It was very exciting, and part of my second book will be really fun and exciting and very voyeuristic and like really, really cool rock star lifestyle. Made a ton of money in some industries that are a lot of fun for a while. And but then it went very dark, and depression and divorce and legal and drug problems and all these things that happened around 2014. And I'm going to put all that out there too. And there's going to be a lot of shame and embarrassment in that. But it's also a story of redemption and finding disc golf again, and disc golf saving my life. And, you know, and actually my book ends with a chapter from book 2, which hasn't been written yet. I just wrote one chapter of the second book. But I've never kept any secrets from her. So she might not know all the details, but I've never hidden from that. So it's going to be a whole different story, but it's still a disc golf story.
Yeah. Well, other disc golf books, I was trying to think exactly where I wanted to go with this. We said it's not like other disc golf books that have been out there. I guess what I would ask then is, have you consumed or analyzed or reviewed or read in depth any of the other major disc golf books that have been written? I think it's Stancil Johnson and I know Jim Palmieri, number 23. I know he's got a book, so on and so forth. Have you read or consumed any of those?
Some. I mean, I read Stancil Johnson's book. I haven't. I don't pay as much attention outside of my bubble, you know, and that's not for lack of interest. It's that I really have tried to consume myself with things to do and projects and adventures. And I don't sit around and watch TV. I don't sit around doing anything. So it's been a little bit self-absorbed. I mean, if you follow me on Facebook, you know that I'm the center of my world, right? I mean, for better or for worse, that's me. So no, I haven't really. I mean, I keep up, but I keep up more passively.
Well, and I mean, in a slight way, I'll say I relate. I feel like I'm as plugged into disc golf as I possibly can be, 23 hours a day, but yet I don't consume other disc golf podcasts. I don't watch a lot of other disc golf videos that are produced. I feel like there's a time. I'm working on my stuff, and it's not to discredit what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
I just don't necessarily consume those as well. whether it's time or interest or whatever the case might be. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that you don't. I was just wondering if those had if maybe those help provide any direction or insight when I think of a flip flat, fly straight, book that's, talking about some of these books have been very, very chronological and historical. And clearly that's not the angle or the way you were going for it. So.
No, it wasn't. Originally, it wasn't supposed to be about the history of disc golf at all. I mean, it's not a history book. I mean, for sure, it's the it wasn't intended to be that until I realized how many moments I was there for.
Mm-hmm.
I almost felt like Forrest Gump a little bit. Crazy John threw a 600-foot drive off the dam at the Columbus Open Final 9, slammed the chains.
Yep.
I was 20 feet from the basket when that happened. Ken Climo won a bunch of world championships. I was unfortunately right there when those happened.
Yeah, you had already putted out when he was winning some of those worlds.
Mike Sullivan had a 15-foot putt go through a Mach 2 basket in sudden death against Greg Hosfeld at the World Championships to lose. So I was standing right next to that basket.
Yep.
So I wound up. I started realizing I was more around for the history than I thought.
Yeah.
But again, it's all through my eyes. I saw things, I saw I saw all the weirdness, and we found weirdness later on too. But it was weird. I'll share another quick story. So this was something that if you just started disc golf, you can't even imagine that this was a thing, right? But I was at so Leonard Muse started the NorCal series, and along with John Houck, had either the second and third or third and second longest running disc golf series. Can-Am series was the oldest before Dwayne Utek. But anyways,
Mm-hmm.
Leonard was either the second or the third series in the sport, and that was the first attempt to actually create a tour. I mean, we called it the PDJ Tour. It wasn't a tour. There was a bunch of random tournaments around the country sanctioned by the PDJ. But the NorCal series, like those other two, said, well, why don't we get together with tournament directors? Let's not have conflicting dates. Let's make something that makes sense and put these things in order. And, let's have points for a series awards, and let's do all the things we can do to help a touring player maybe actually hit the road, because we'll geographically place them together. Anyways, nowadays you take stuff like that for granted, but back then it was revolutionary what these promoters were doing. So I was at the NorCal meeting, I think it was in 91. I was on the board of directors for the NorCal series, and all the tournament directors from all over Northern California came to Mike and Michelle Cousins' living room, which you had to do because this was pre-internet. So you actually had to drive 6 hours to have a meeting to talk about your Frisbee golf series, right? So we all have this meeting, and two of the topics that were being discussed were whether or not we should enforce certain rules at disc golf tournaments. Now, both of these rules existed, but just because they existed didn't mean that that anyone paid any attention to them. And the two rules we were discussing at this meeting, the first one was, should players be required to wear shirts at PDJ tournaments? And we've ended up voting on it, and we voted that players at NorCal series events were required to wear shirts. The vote was not unanimous. There were still players who were like, are you kidding me? You have to wear a shirt at a Frisbee tournament? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But they were overruled. The second rule that was voted on was, should tournament directors be allowed to smoke joints at players' meetings? Now, also, in addition to that, should players be allowed to do this at tournaments? But but there were tournament directors there that in the previous year had smoked joints during the players' meeting at PDJ tournaments. I'm so sorry, 2019, if I offend you with our sports history. But this was our sport, and we actually had a meeting where we discussed, should we enforce the you can't smoke pot at tournaments rules? And we voted that yes, we needed to enforce that rule. Again, it was not unanimous. There were people who said, this is not why I'm in this sport.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Jim Oates, who I've always respected the man so much for this, who went to I believe it was the first tournament, either St. Patty's tournament, and stood up in front of everybody and said, I've been doing this thing at tournaments for the past decade. I'm not doing it anymore because I want our sport to grow. I want to evolve. I want to change our reputation. This isn't happening at my tournaments anymore. If you do this, you're going to be disqualified. Don't care if you think I'm a hypocrite for it. I'm changing. you guys need to change too. I'm putting words in his mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, it took the tournament directors to get together and say, hey, this is this really cool thing, but are we harming our sport by doing it? Yes, we are. We need to change. And then it took people like Jim Oates to step up there and man up and say, look, I'm changing. I expect you guys to change with me. And so that's part of our history, right? I mean, that's as funny as it sounds. That was an honest to God. And the important part of both the story is that neither of those votes were unanimous. There were people who were like, are you kidding me? What are you talking about? I drove all the way for this. But we still loved each other and got along. And by the way, the tournament directors that didn't agree enforced the rules. And that was the moment when that rule started being enforced in Northern California. That might have happened elsewhere. At individual tournaments, there were tournaments that clearly had these rules. It's not like it was everywhere, but it was everywhere enough that it was a problem. It was a problem that got dealt with. And that was some of the moments where that, the genesis of that transition.
And just to bring that full circle to here in 2019, you still have people that, we need those people that are willing, even if it's the unpopular opinion or it's the unpopular decision, to still forge forward with it. And that can be applied to whether that's still calling a rule within a group as a card mate. That can be applied to setting up media and charging for it. And it may be unpopular in a week or two, but it might be ultimately the growth that sets, that's a domino that sets us up for the future. I mean, like you're saying, to have someone or some entity take a stand that may or may not be the most popular decision, there's so much more that can come from it, and we'll let time tell and history write itself in those ways. So
yeah, well, I think
couldn't agree
we
more.
Found our balance, and I think this is important, is that there's recreational disc golf, and then there's the professional tour. I am a diehard government-hating libertarian, right? I think that people should do whatever the hell they want to in their private lives so they don't hurt anybody else. I will die supporting their right to do so. That doesn't mean I have ever believed that it belonged in part of the professional tour. Like, they don't have to overlap for them both to be right. You know what I mean? And so I firmly support that belief while having personal and political beliefs that completely oppose it. I don't think I'm wrong for that. And I think there's a lot of players who agree with that.
Yep.
I'm not alone.
So in the spirit of an open book policy, a little bit of criticism and or questioning, maybe is even a better term than criticism. One question that's come about, and I know you addressed it on Facebook, but let's have you just put it out there for everyone here on our podcast in case they didn't see it. Is people are clamoring about seeing your name on the PDGA suspended list right now.
Did you? Is it true you punched somebody?
Oh, they dug up the bodies and the DNA. I don't know. I ran I ran 18 Blue Power PDGA events last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I paid my tournament director fees on all but the last couple. I thought I had paid them. I didn't. I got a message from the PDGA like 3 months later that says you owe some money. And I was like, I just ignored it because I thought it was like 3 months later. I thought it was just a mistake. And then I found out I was suspended. I contacted them. I had a couple outdated fees. I've since paid them, and they're just going to take me off the list. So
okay.
I'm sorry to everyone that thinks,
with all your stories, this one is the worst one.
That is the worst reason to get suspended I've ever heard. Wow.
Child's play.
That's not even going to make the second book.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll try to do better next time.
And then also, I guess maybe just a strategic question here in 2019. Someone like yourself, putting all these stories together, especially with the way that you tell them audibly, did something cross your mind instead of a book? Did it cross your mind to have maybe some kind of a downloadable podcast series or something like that maybe would be a different way to monetize or get your stories out there that wasn't, dare I say, so traditional in terms of writing a book? I think about, just that. I think podcast series is what comes to mind. Maybe some people would call it an audiobook. I don't know where those two lines even kind of blend together now, but if you were to have something like that, did anything like that cross your mind, or is there something
Yes.
about a book, a physical book, that was part of your mission here?
Yeah, I wanted an actual book, and that's maybe showing my age,
Mm-hmm.
but I have been an avid reader my whole life, like most of us old people. And so just having a book on the shelf,
Okay.
that was important to me. Um, the podcast, I've dabbled in it several times, and it's never really stuck. And I have an idea where I want to go with it again. Um, but it's in the idea phase. So I do want to do that. I mean, I started doing disc golf history and legends, and I ended up having a transition in my life, and I moved and I started a job as a director of sales at a software company. Somebody actually put me in charge of things. It's pretty cool. But so all of a sudden that began to dominate my life, and then this year I've met someone who I want to spend every moment that I'm not working on stuff with, and so it kind of became on the back burner. But the book has always been something that I haven't stopped plugging away at.
Okay. Yeah, it's again, not just showing your age. I think there is something, that physical representation of having that book. Someone like myself, who of course is a little bit of a disc golf historian, and
You can say it,
and hoarder,
a pack rat.
and a pack rat and a hoarder, would of course want something like. I can't imagine my museum / library / whatever it is at the end of my career.
It's called a storage shed at this point.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I have your guides, your instructional videos. I've got all of that stuff. I've got it all. So I can value that. But I think of kids these days that'd be like, really, like a book? Like I can't just put it on my phone.
Well, they will be able to.
And I know they can, but that's what I mean. Yeah. Okay.
There's going to be the audio version for the kids these days. Them damn millennials with their what are those things they do? They call phones, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
The phones that's what they call them these
The
days.
phone
right?
is like
Phones.
the most useless part of this thing these days.
Exactly.
Like that's the most least used portion of my phone. Is the phone.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be cool. It's not gonna be. It's not a history. Like I said, it's interesting and it's fun, and the people were weird, and the stories are good, and there's a lot of stories out there. Some of it just really cool, like wow, and then a lot of them are like wow, that's insane. And I even end the story with a chapter called "The Greatest Story Ever Told."
Don't spoil it.
Even on the internet, if I told this story to you guys right now, you would probably get fined for obscenity violations. I'm just saying.
We do what we want here, Scott.
That's right. There's no FCC to protect.
No. I'm saving this one for the book. I don't really want to say these words out loud. I can't not say them once I've said them. But at the final tournament I ever played was something took place that was. Like I remember thinking at the time, if I'm going to retire, it's never going to get crazier than this. Like, yeah, it's there, and that's not rated. The book is not rated PG. Sorry, parents. And this story is definitely not PG. And
well,
just have to read the book.
I look forward to the book coming out. I look forward to us getting some signed copies so we can give them out to some of our viewers.
Yes,
we're going to make sure that Scott gets that to us, and we will make sure that our Smashies can get access to that.
So let's think about this briefly. Think about your career and where you've gone, what you've traveled, all these accolades, accomplishments, world records, and you're going from Scott Stokely, the disc golf tour, to Scott Stokely, the book tour. Is that in store? And
yeah, well, yes. I mean, everywhere I go, I mean, I'm going to be promoting the book. I mean, the book is going to be a staple of who I am and what I do. I hope I'm associated with it forever. I mean, I mean, it's my life, whether you like it or not. I give everyone the full right to not like me once they read this book, right? I mean, that's totally cool, but it is me. It's my words. It's me, and so I'll be out promoting it. My plan is to do. I have plans to be out on the road again, but it's not going to be full time on the road because I'm with somebody that can't travel right now, and I'm pretty committed to not leaving her behind. So I think
she's
I'm
in
be
jail,
for a
isn't
little
she?
bit.
You keep saying that she can't leave because she's in jail. Right?
Just say it. Just say it.
Oh no, she's a great, perfect, wonderful mom, and she's finishing out the last chapters of her mom responsibility with some great kids that she's getting off preparing for life. When that phase is over, I'm hoping that she's going to be by my side and we're going to be out doing this together. That would be my hope more than anything.
I like my jail story better. Like just
I
pining.
know some of my stories are boring. I'm not as interesting as people think. Well, except for that one time after the
yeah. Well, you've
yeah. That
especially in the second book. How about that? When the second book's going to be dark.
All right. Well, we're excited. We appreciate that you exclusively wanted to drop the news here first to let the disc golf world know. Hopefully this will be.
I'm waiting for the movie.
Yeah. Dude, the book's always better. Let's ask that question. If it can't be you, if it can't be you, who would play you in the movie?
If you think I haven't thought screenplay, you're out of your freaking mind.
I know you have. I'm sure you have that. But who's playing you? Well, I mean,
it's Eagle McMahon. There's no other choice.
Wow.
I haven't even told him yet, but he is the only person that could possibly play me.
Is it those Colorado roots or what?
No,
vegan.
Because
he throws far.
Eagle is the person I want to be. I mean, he is larger than life. He's got the right attitude. He's got the right. He's a good quality human being at every single level. He's also tall. He's thin. He throws a mile. He has a sidearm. I mean, it's Eagle.
Nope.
Eagle.
He's not like a grandson or anything, is he?
What?
He's not like a grandson or anything, is he?
No. Although I did put out documents that Simon Lizotte was my son. I put out paternity results a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. I never asked his dad permission either for it. So,
David's all right with it.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of there's nobody on tour I don't like. I like them all, but Eagle and Simon are two of my favorites. Drew Gibson is I'm a huge Drew Gibson fan. I think he's going to have a breakout here.
So you're the fan.
People are going to go.
Come on. Am I?
You guys are agreeing with that?
I said so. You're the fan. So
yeah, no, I'm the fan. I'm a fan of Drew's. I think he's about to break out. And then every tournament, there's like 7 kids I've never heard of before who are great.
And they're all shooting 1,020 golf, and you're like, "What are you doing? Oh my God, I'm so old."
Mm-hmm.
I know.
It's incredible. All right. Well, thank you, of course, for not only sharing the stories, but sharing this incredible news. We will, push it out there and give everyone the updates as they unfold. And we trust that you'll be keeping us up to speed on all that.
Real quick, maybe it's real quick. Hall of Fame. What's your take? Like, clearly, I think if you ask, you've laid out your history. You've done it on Facebook. I personally feel that you're a no-brainer, as someone would say, first ballot Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. Where do you stand on this?
There's every single person in the Hall of Fame I'm a fan of. I mean, these are all my friends. These are the people I love the most. They built the sport. And had I not left the sport in 2001, I would have been in a decade ago. I mean, my side by side, not just my accomplishments on the course, but my teaching, my training, my books, my tours, my clinics. I mean, I was obviously going to go in a long time ago. It was out of sight, out of mind. I left the sport, and then I disappeared, and then I came back. And so I'm not like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm pretty confident pretty soon here. And I'm not going to sit there and say, well, my accomplishment stacked up against somebody else there is significantly more, because that's childish, right? And that's stupid. It's kind of like, why does he get to have something I don't have, right? I mean, that's what kids do. I love the people in the Hall of Fame. I'll be a welcome member. I'll be proud of it when it happens, and that's it. Nothing but positive thoughts.
Good. Yeah, and I do hope. Usually we see some Hall of Fame members go in every year. I'm really hoping that we see your name on one of those black discs.
Hall of Fame Classics in a couple of weeks. They better get it together.
That's true. that hopefully we see your name on one of those black discs in the next couple of years, next 2 or 3
Yeah.
years. I think it's only.
I'm not worried about it, and honestly, what I've left for the people I've touched is what matters to me. The recognition is fantastic, but when it comes down to it, it's the people, my life, the family, my Frisbee family, Blue Power, all the families I've helped there. Like, I mean, that's really what matters. I mean, when it comes down to it, my name on a list is going to be awesome, but I'm not defined by it by any stretch.
Good answer.
Yeah. All right, pal. Any parting shots, any final words you'd like to share with us before we let you go?
Yes, absolutely. Go to ScottStokely.net. That's where you can find out about the book. There's a couple more announcements coming up, but I'm going to leave that for now. In the next couple weeks, that are also big. Nothing like this though. This is the big one. Hey, I love you guys. The reason I wanted to be on the show is because I wanted you to know how much I appreciate all the support you've given me and the voice you've given me and everything you've done. I wanted to give. This was a big deal to me. This is one of the biggest things I've ever done, and I wanted to do it for and with you guys to show my appreciation for everything you've done for me. So thank you guys very much.
Well, absolutely.
Thank you for thinking of us.
We're
It means a
honored.
lot.
We're proud to do so. We love being everyone's platform when they've got great things going on and want to share, the accomplishments, the challenges, whatever it might be. And we're just glad to play a little role in helping provide that platform for you. So congratulations on the undertaking. Like you said, everyone can talk about writing a book, but to sit down and actually go through that process and to accomplish that is, just that. It's an accomplishment in itself, I feel like. So
it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and the second book's going to be harder, but it's okay. I've enjoyed every moment of it.
It's awesome. All right, Scott. Well, we appreciate it. We look forward to hearing
guys.
the updates. Thank you. Have a good night. And everyone, again, check out ScottStokely.net. And that's where they can find everything out and get the updates on the book and lessons and probably hear some other crazy stories.
You guys are great. You guys plug me better than me. I have to write this stuff down to remember. And you guys...
We've only been doing this for like 266 episodes. We figured it out,
I guess so.
Mostly.
All right, hey, thanks, you guys. I can't wait to chat again.
Appreciate it. Have a great night.
Good night.
All right, thanks.
All right, good night. Again, Scott Stokely.
One of the people in disc golf that I looked up to when I first started. And again, I know I have a mini with, a little speed thing with his name on it and face on it. I've had fortunate enough times to be able to be in the same area as him and talk with him and shag discs down for him.
Yep.
Lots of those good stories. I was there when he was drilled in the chest with a disc at one of his speed competitions.
That was awesome.
That was so awesome. And literally probably 6 inches away from killing him.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
incredible.
Cool. Yeah, incredible.
That's what I'm going to put in my book about him. Because I almost watched you die.
I almost watched him die. Disc hit him like right here, a little higher up. It would have crushed his windpipe. But anyway, so I'm always ecstatic when Scott has something going on. And this seems like it is one of those things that is important for not just him and not just us, but the disc golf community having I know he kind of is leaning away from the term history, but it's history. And it's not necessarily definitive, but having his history out there really is important. And
yeah, the documentation is what's so critical. Our pioneers, our early touring players, our early inventors, developers, the ambassadors, the promoters, all of those people have a voice, but haven't necessarily had a platform to use it or taken advantage of it, or some of them maybe did or didn't want to, or some of them just didn't have the push or the nudge to do so. And Scott, as he kind of had said, not really necessarily shy. So it's great to see him jump in head first and make it happen, because a lot of people can talk about it. And Scott's even, can double down on all of that by what he did with the History and Legends podcast, which we'd love to see him. And he's talked about when the time is right. Love to see him pick back up when he does share some of the stories and get onto a podcast, and he pulls some of these key ambassadors and promoters and leaders and people and godfathers and godmothers of various states, pull some of those names that might not be household names, but pulls them out, puts them into the spotlight, and then gets the stories or the background or the history from them and what they were doing in their respective areas. I think that's what was so great about the podcast when he did want to start it, and he, came to us about, being a platform and a host for it, is because we said, that needs to be documented. And if he's going to take the initiative, again, we'd love to play just the tiniest role of being one of your outlets.
I really enjoyed that. And I know it was very short-lived, as he said, he got 8 or 9 episodes in, and then he switched jobs. Mm-hmm. He was traveling like upwards of an hour and a half a day in his car to his new job. Him and I tried to figure out a way. He's like, well, can I like call these people while I'm on my drive and record it? And we literally, we thought of, and I'm like, well, that's not really safe, Scott. I mean, you can try. I can't be there. I could try to edit it after the fact. It wouldn't be video. And he's like, I want video. And I'm like, yeah, but video's tough because these people you're talking to are old. And so they have old computers 9 times out of 10. And they don't, not a lot of them, and I hate to stereotype, but a lot of them aren't necessarily technologically oriented to set something like this up. So we had some really mixed results with the video stuff. And there's just so much there that I would have loved to continue that series, and I hope we can pick it up at some point. Maybe when Scott hits the road, he can start doing more in-person interviews whenever that is. But we're out here, and we'll keep doing what we can do. But I do love that history. It's something that every region has a history, and obviously, as he said, is West Coast, and probably somewhat Colorado. But there's a whole East Coast that most of us really don't know the history of, and to be able to sit down with someone and just pull that information out would be priceless. And if someone's out there, like, go do it, man. I'll help out any way I can, but those are the type of things that I think should be documented, because as Scott said, it seems like every month I see someone saying, oh, we lost so-and-so this month, and he was the founding member of XYZ club. And you just think, all I think is that information's gone. Yeah. Like whatever that person had in their head is gone and will never be shared with anybody. We did not do a good job of extracting it and writing it down or recording it. And in today's day and age, when everything is recorded, from whatever meal you ate to your walk to the car, it's not the case for so long ago. So it hurts, even though I don't know these people. It hurts for a different way for me.
Well, it's I think that's obviously, as the generations continue forward, we're going to get to a point where literally every moment is recorded and will forever be documented. Quickly, I want to thank again our digital green room sponsor, who always plays host to us just before our guests come on. That's Disc Baron. So thank you so much. And then also a quick shout out, Ace Run Productions said, cool exclusive tonight, gents. Please check out our review of The Fuse featuring Johnny McRae. We will be giving away a Fuse signed by Johnny McRae. And I know earlier in the night I briefly spoke of Kristen Tatar and her big win this weekend, and how much I know she loves to throw the St. Pro. I know that Johnny McRae also loves to throw the St. Pro. I don't think Johnny McRae, though, or Kristen, have one with a Tear Bear logo on them.
I'm sure they don't.
I'm going to have to get them one.
We saw Johnny on the board earlier.
Yes,
so, Johnny, if you want a Tear Bear one, you know who to reach out to.
Yeah, I think Terry. I just need to hand one over to you. So thank you guys. Hope you guys all enjoyed the information. And yet again, thanks to Scott for saving up his information and then bringing it to us here in an exclusive way. I know he was bursting at the seams trying to figure out which night he could be on, which night would make the most sense. We do have some things lined up. I'm thinking ahead a little bit already to next week, but I want to make quick mention. I don't know if Johnny's got the email in front of him. I'll look for mine. Quick mention in talking to one of our recent Hall of Famers in Jay Redding.
Oh, yeah.
Yeti, as many of you would refer to him as. He gave us a little info as to Chains for Charity, and I think he's going to join us next week. But we wanted to give a quick little blurb about encouraging folks to look into the Chains for Charity. He'll give us some more details. for the listeners next week, but look into that. It's a sponsored program for the USDGC designed to raise funding in support for the 501c3, the Educational Disc Golf Experience, EDGE, as many of you know it, that provides age-appropriate disc golf equipment and programming to classes, schools, camps, and youth groups. Chains for Charity also supports Throw Pink, that gets women get active outdoors, and disc golf make a difference in health initiatives like breast cancer awareness. So go out to the USDGC to raise money on the amount based, to raise money for charity based on the amount of birdie points that a player accumulates during the USDGC play. Besides helping a couple of great causes during the championship, some sweet prizes will be available. So if you go out to discgolfunited.com, that's where you will find information. They're giving away Disc Catcher Pros, 3 of them, USDGC Players Package, and autographed discs and more. So he'll join us next week and probably give us a few more details. I know it's a quick gloss over it, but I know he told us about it last year. A lot of people signed up for it. But it is another great way for you to go out and, of course, you're supporting the event, but then supporting these great causes in addition. So thank you to Jay, and I think we'll, again, get some more details from him next week.
I want to take a couple minutes, and we did just have a PDGA major this last weekend, and we brushed on one particular division, the FPO division. But there are a lot of other divisions, and as we tend to do with the majors, I want to kind of quickly run through some of our other winners, our newly crowned major winners. We'll start with FPO, obviously, with Kristen Tatar. Phenomenal showing, and someone that I'm really hoping is able to take more time next year in the United States to do touring. I don't know her plans. I know she's got a family back home, but it's been a pleasure to see her over here touring. Second place was Paige Pierce. Third place, Rebecca Cox. Fourth place, Sarah Hokum, and Paige Bjerkes tied. So exciting to see Paige Bjerkes back out on the course and performing very well. So that was your Open women. I'm gonna go through these pretty fast here. So Pro Masters women 40 plus, Elaine King with the sweep. She swept the majors in her division. FP40. What an accomplishment! Everyone usually refers to Kenny as the GOAT or Mr. Macbeth. You're all backseat to Elaine. Sorry. She's driving the car. You guys are back there. Elaine is the ageless wonder, still competing in Open on some events and winning. But, just crazy. Congratulations to Elaine King, as always. Natalie Holokoi taking second place in that field, followed up by Barrett White. Pro Masters Women 60. Suzette Simons won that one. Advanced Women, Beth Kimball takes that. Amateur Masters Women 40 plus, Becky Trojan. Amateur Masters Women 50, Nadia Kokaro. Amateur Masters Women 55, Karen Shearer. 60, Maureen Miller. 70, Paula Bowen. Intermediate Women, Jane Ellen Hanks. Recreational Women, Caitlin Yelvington. Novice Women, Kelsey Sweeten. Junior girls under 18, Lily Marr. 15, Amanda Young. 12, Caitlin Pear. And under 10, Rosemary Marr. Congratulations to all our Masters winners.
All of our
major winners, not Masters. Yeah. All our majors winners.
I was going to say that under 10-year-old, she's got a little ways to go.
I think she's got it. She's going to be a Master winner someday.
Awesome. Yes. And so exciting to see. Does that kind of segue right into the overall concept of what we saw for media, what we didn't maybe even see for media? I know there was a little bit of disappointment. I expressed it myself, so I can't just say, I'm making it up. I was disappointed. I would have loved to see a little bit more media come from this women's-based major this weekend.
And before we get into that, I want to say, go out and find. I'm sorry, I can't remember who posted it, so it's gonna be really difficult. Someone went out on Facebook and posted a glowing review, like to the point where I'm on a different computer. I marked it on my computer at work, so I can't pull it up, unfortunately. How phenomenal this event was.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Just this, not just like the USWDGC, but having it here at Spotsylvania, having the different divisions and fields, and just that they couldn't pick out a bad thing about the event. That's how great this event was, which is a huge change from the Masters event that we just saw out of Maple Hill, where there were some complaints about certain things. This one, from the competitor side, was glowing, shining. It was transparent. It was phenomenal. So I want to say that before we dive into some nitpicky things on our side.
Yeah, and if it's just that, if we have to, so to speak, nitpick on certain things, that means that you've done an amazing job. And by no means, I'll say we have to look at where the improvements could have come from. Now, I'm not going to say that this is necessarily a tournament director or tournament organizer framed, pointed, or directed complaint or frustration at all. I mean, every event has certain expectations that either explicitly or implicitly applied or expected of, in terms of if you're a major, an A tier, B tier, so on and so forth, right? And then from there are also certain expectations and or things that are laid out, whether it's from the PDGA standards guide or a sponsorship guide or whatever, that also dictate what is or isn't available. So if I can recall, we had UDisc, who has become our primary and number one live scoring measure and stats and details that were available. Jomez Pro, following lead card, doing next day post-production. We had the PDGA recap.
Yep. As well
that
as the PDGA
was
recap
given
podcast.
to us. The PDGA recap that was given to us. And those were all available to us.
As well as, like I said, there's a PDGA recap podcast that they do. It's called Chain Reaction.
Was that nightly or daily, or how is that done?
Yes, that's usually done daily for most of the majors.
Okay.
So you
Who
can
hosts that?
Steve Hill.
Okay.
So Steve Hill is out there. It's kind of funny because, as I said, you saw the Masters major, and that had Masters at it strictly. This is
40 plus.
This is the USWDGC, which had women,
all women,
only women, including Masters.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of complaints about recognition and this and that from the Masters field, payouts, this and that. I mean, the payout for the FPO field was definitely heavier because, as I say, they probably did a slightly better job at fundraising than there was for the Masters field. And I'm so kind of torn because on one hand, I think, and again, come at me all you want, that Masters major, I think it got the right amount of coverage.
Sure.
But on the other hand, I think USWDGC, the FPO field probably deserves a little more coverage. I think they probably...
the largest FPO field we've ever seen?
I think you almost need to have at least 2 post-production cards. Or, I mean, and again, this isn't selling us in general. Maybe live at it. I know the FPO tends to really only get a fraction of the views, especially for live. I'm not going to deny that. So I can understand not putting in the resources to cover that live. I get it, and I'm not. I don't necessarily think there has to be live. I feel that there should be a minimum of 2 cards in post-production, period. I said the same thing about USDGC last week on the podcast when you weren't here, that when they announced Spin TV was going to be doing coverage and they weren't sure what Jomez was going to do or if they were going to be involved, I said, I don't care what happens. Jomez probably should be covering at least second card. Thankfully, we'll get to that they are. But you need to have 2-card coverage at the USDGC, just like I kind of feel like you need to have it at USWDGC. And I don't want to frame it as an equality thing, but we've seen in the FPO field, big leads swing and change and push different directions. And having only 1 card of coverage, I just don't think cuts it.
And it's really tough for us to bring it up from a live perspective to not sound biased. Again, I don't care. I said it as well. I don't care if it's not us being hired to do live, and Fulcrum or Disc Golf Planet or Disc Golf Broadcasting or any of the other outfits that have ever tried live disc golf. I don't care if it's any of them or us. I'm not. This isn't a poor us, boo hoo. Complaint from our perspective, from a business side. Just the general idea of live should have been happening. Now I know Marty Gregoire had a stabilizer and a phone and was out there, and we got the last 10 holes live, which I watched, I think, pretty much every second of. Great. That is something. I think that it's fair to say that we wish we had more. And I know we're not alone in saying that. And that comes as a viewer and a fan and a supporter way first, and not even at all as a live content producer. Just as a fan, that's where we're saying that from.
Mm-hmm. So, and I just think it's minimum. A minimum you can do is two cards of coverage. Like, again, live, give or take it. Obviously, there's no way for us not to sound biased, but got to give me that 2 cards of coverage, that 2 cards of post-production coverage. And it's just, it's a little ridiculous that it's not out there.
Yeah, it's too bad. So, great to see. I believe, like we said, Jomez was out there providing next day. Was there just 3 rounds? Now I'm feeling silly because I know in the past there's not them, but just in general
there was 3 rounds in general. The
yeah,
first round, for FPO, we're going to talk,
and that's why I think about the last few years.
And L'Oreal.
Correct. Okay, and I asked that because I'm accustomed to 4 or more rounds that I've seen for the event, so that's why I had to even second guess myself for a moment, thinking that there was just 3 rounds. So hats off, congratulations, not only to the winners and the people that perform well, but as you were just saying, Johnny, everyone couldn't speak highly enough, say enough good things about how things were handled, the experience that they had. It sounds awesome. And I am very, very disappointed that I just wasn't out there in any capacity as a viewer, as a spectator, as a caddy, or providing any content. It's too bad. But congratulations to everyone. And now, speaking of more media things, clearly just yesterday, and this is really it's been a pretty hot topic. And again, always tough for us to have conversations about things that are either directly or very indirectly that surround us, for us not to sound bitter, jaded, biased, overly excited, underly excited, whatever you want to call it. It's very tough. So please recognize that we recognize that challenge ourselves.
We try to step out. I know you do, but I try to step out of myself and back off and look at it from a different perspective for the live that we're about to talk about with USDGC. And I've got really good things to say, and I've got things that worry me about the event. We have first of all, we have no involvement in the event, period. I don't think
no.
I was gonna say, I don't think you do. I know I don't. I'm actually gonna be a little busy that day. My son has a swim meet that day, so I'm gonna be trying to keep up. But the USDGC announced yesterday their media plans. That includes live from Fulcrum Media, which we all knew a couple weeks ago when they came on and they were kind of talking about it actually on one of our chat boards. The Spin TV was announced a week or so ago about doing the post-production coverage. And then it was just announced as well that Jomez will be doing second card coverage, chase card coverage, which is great because, as I just said, with USDGC specifically, that's an event where someone could come off the second or third card to win with a stellar round. That could be very compressed. Hole 17 is always kind of it gets 1 or 2 people every year and knocks them out of contention. So the more we have on that, the better. So I'm happy that we're getting the 2 card coverage. I think that's the minimum we can ask for. It's not the most we can ask for, but it is the minimum, and I'm not going to complain about the post-production at all, because I think that's in really good hands with Spin TV and Jomez. So Spin TV has put together some of the most memorable disc golf rounds in history. So I know there's some people out there that are, the Jomez fanboys out there that are online that are very vocal about their displeasure that Jomez will be covering Chase. I get it. I also agree that I think when it comes to post-production, Jomez is the best in our game, but I also see the bigger logistics of Spin TV is an in of a product. And I would understand them wanting to have full control, keep it in-house, brand it the way they want, and so on and so forth. But the big news that they really announced was that the live coverage is going to be pay-per-view. We are going back to a pay-per-view model, which I don't think we've seen since maybe USDGC in like 2012, 13. That sounds about right. I don't even know, to be honest, but I know it was done at USDGC because I was involved.
Yeah, and of course that is it fair to call it shocking? It was shocking news?
It was shocking because
it was just so out of the blue.
And I had told our viewers last week that after Worlds, we Innova asked us to provide a bid or a quote on World or on USDGC, and it was a little late to the game, and ultimately they went with Fulcrum, and I'm very happy for that because I think different getting to see a different perspective is going to be awesome. But we weren't notified at all that they were thinking about pay-per-view, which is what shocked me. I was like, wow, that might have changed the bid or the quote,
the proposal structure,
the structure, and a lot of different things. But for whatever that is, I think it's awesome. I am all on board with the pay-per-view. The minute it was announced, I paid for it. $9.99. I didn't even wait for the PDGA discount.
No way. Disc Golf Rich. Johnny's just shelling out.
Just that $2.
Shelling out 10 spots like we're made of them.
You know me. That's how I roll. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for the pay-per-view. Not just because it's pay-per-view, although I think that is a big step for our sport. Going back to a pay for content mentality. I'm excited that it's being done by, I'm trying to think of a good way to put this. I'm excited that Innova and the USDGC specifically is taking that step because they have the history with it. They've done it before. They're a known entity that can kind of take that hit and understand that, okay, we might not make our money back on this. In fact, I guarantee you they're not going to make their money back on it. Like, I can't think of a way that they could. But they know that going into it, as opposed to if someone like us or another company decided to do that. So I'm glad they're taking that step and that hit so we can look at it from an outside perspective and say, oh, cool, that worked out pretty well. Or, yeah, that didn't work at all. I think there's going to be some really good data, even if it's circumstantial, because we're not going to have access to any of the back end stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to know if there's 1,000 subscribers or 10,000 people that signed up. I'll have no idea. But I think we'll get a general feeling of how successful it is.
Well, and there are so many questions that we're not going to necessarily have answers to, or nor are we owed by any means. But it is kind of can it still be a proof of concept even though it was attempted many years ago? I guess it could, because we're just in a totally different era from when Disc Golf Planet, which Johnny and I both volunteered countless hours on, at a number of events. They originally started out doing free. At one point had a pay-per-view model that was tried at a number of events. I saw some of the successes to that, and I saw some of the failures to that principle or to that concept. Of course, when we came on the scene in 2014, everything that we had been doing, from the get-go, we have done completely free in terms of to the viewers. Now, we've had tournaments help us offset. We've had the PDGA. We've had various sponsors. We've done things on our own dime.
Yeah, exactly. Just for instance, this past event at Worlds, the last one we did, we went and covered half a round on our own dime. Like, we wanted to check out Northwood, and we did it. It was PGA was not part of the bid. We just did it because we wanted to do it. I do kind of want to clarify something, and this is a little nitpicky. When you're talking free coverage, and then you say that the PDGA helps support, just like us, just like post-production, the people that are complaining that they've always gotten it for free and it should be free, it's not.
Yeah, it's just free to you.
No, it's not. It's still coming out of their PDGA fees. The PDGA is still paying Jomez, CCDG, Ace Run, Gatekeeper, GK Productions. When they're at a mate or an NT, they're getting paid. And it's coming out of your fees, your PDGA fees. Now, it might be 10 cents of your PDGA fee, but I want it to be known that it's not free. We are paying for it. We're all paying for it. And me personally, I don't have a problem with it because I see the value in the media, but it's not free. Like, as everyone jokes, there's nothing free in this world. Somehow that's getting paid for. Just, until the media starts paying for the rights, which could be this year, could be next year, could be, I don't know when that's going to be. The PDGA is paying for that. And they're paying thousands of dollars an event, tens of thousands of dollars an event. I would be shocked if and they'll never break it down. They'll never show you the actual details because there's just a big budget. It's probably a line item under advertising or media. If that number this year, just for the NTs, didn't hit over $100,000. Pretty accurate, you think? Around there?
Carry the one. Let me check my account. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So just that the PDGA is the biggest supporter of Patreon without getting there, without getting the Patreon perks.
Yeah, and that's something that clearly has continued to climb or to skyrocket over the last few years when the PDGA has really made a commitment to saying, well, we're not necessarily in the business of producing our own content in-house because that's not what the PDGA is built to do. The PDGA has made a very concerted effort to support the content providers, the ones that are making stuff, to just support them and ourselves included, of course, in that, to support the entities that have come about and are trying to push things forward because the PDGA themselves isn't in the content producing business. So there's a lot of swirling thoughts that can go around this. And as I guess Johnny had even explicitly said, being a supporter of the pay-per-view model, I very much have been on the fence because I've seen some of the good that can come from it. Of course, I've seen some of the bad that can come from it. This is to be determined, to be proved, and to let it play out in the next few weeks. The one of the biggest challenges, and other people have said this, so I'm not unique in saying this, is if, and of course we do not expect or hope this to happen, but if this isn't good to great, it may frustrate or alienate any on-the-fence pay-per-viewers for the future.
Possibly.
And I think that, from a selfish perspective here at SmashBoxx, that is our one challenge, or I think literally the only drawback to this unfolding the way it is in the next 2 weeks.
Sure.
Is that by association, some people already do or don't care for live. That's fine. But when there is now a charge for this live, and if it doesn't meet or exceed expectations, people will forever lump together, fair or not, they will lump together and say, oh, I saw live, I had to pay for it, I didn't like it, it sucked, or it wasn't great, or whatever they want to say. And then, I'm never paying for that again. I tried. I took my chance. I rolled my dice, or die. I'm forever turned off.
Yeah,
so
there's
or not, that could hurt us.
That is something that obviously you and I have both thought about and could happen. And there are a lot of people out there that are going to be like, no, man, even if they fail, we support SmashBoxx, and that's great. But you're also the ones probably that are plugged into the sport that maybe don't know the difference between Fulcrum, or that do know the difference between Fulcrum and SmashBoxx. Other people just see live disc golf. They don't, they don't have it. And it would take, another couple of years for us to explain the difference. So that is that is one of the thoughts on our side. Now, when it comes down to some of the other things that they've announced, we've seen Fulcrum was very vocal on Reddit. There's a gentleman by the name of Luke, who I believe is co-owner or founder of the company, a younger guy, probably about our age, so super young,
Yeah,
really
I was just
young.
gonna say.
And
where's your scale on that?
we said Scott Stokely on, so we're young.
Okay.
And he's been pretty vocal on Reddit on their plans and what they're going to be doing. The back end to the live is going to be Vimeo, so it's going to be on the USDGC page embedded, but it will be a Vimeo. So odds are you'll be able to maybe Chromecast it or maybe look for it. I don't know exactly how it's going to work because I haven't used the service myself. Somehow get it to your TV. They say it's going to be available on all major televisions and anything with a web browser. So I'm excited about that. He also said that their goal is to have like 8 cameras.
Wow.
That's a lot of cameras.
We don't even own 8 cameras.
No, we don't. 4 probably on the lead card.
Holy cow.
He said 3 to 5 on the studio.
Holy cow. Oh,
yeah.
4 on Hannah, 1 for the other 2.
No, I mean,
understandably.
You need every angle of Hannah just in case for some reason
she might
have
us.
She might have one bad side for that day. But I guarantee you it doesn't stick. Just doesn't.
Good call.
You know. So you need to have all those cameras. And then maybe they weren't sure 1 on hole 18. Because that they are going to be stationed in, I believe, somewhere near the hospitality area and have a person in there doing like show switching. Logistically, they are going with a slightly different method than what we do, is what he announced. He said that they are going with what's known as like a point-to-point system, a wireless transmission back to a central vehicle, which means you need like a line of sight. So on their moving truck around the USDGC, they're going to have their cameras beam back a signal to the truck, and then the truck will mobily push it out. And this is where I worry, like from the tech side, because we've worked with things. If for some reason, for us, each camera has its own streamer that streams back to me. So we have 3 cameras and then the booth and whatever. If one of those camera fails, which we've seen happen before, for whatever reason, the streamer doesn't come up, it's got to be restarted, I still have 2 cameras to play with. If for some reason their truck has a cell issue or bonding issue, whatever you want to call it, you're going to lose the lead card, the entire lead card. You're not going to get a choice. Like, that is the failure point. You've moved from 3 distinctive failure points to 1 failure point. So I'm a little nervous about that. The upside of that is the quality from the cameras on those wireless transmissions is almost perfect. So when it gets to the truck, it's going to look really good. You still have to send it through a cellular signal, but you're only paying for 1 data source. So, if you have a couple Verizon modems, we'll just say, in the truck that are bonded together and pushing out, you're only paying for 2 or 3 lines. Whereas of us, we have to pay for like 2 or 3 lines per camera. So there's an advantage to that method. It's still going through cellular, so you don't expect ESPN quality here. And then somehow they're going to be bringing in the booth as well. I don't know exactly all the logistics on how that's going to work. And then probably hole 18, they've got a dedicated. So they're going to have their 4 cameramen, a dedicated switcher in the truck, along with a producer, along with a graphics person, along with a replay person. Plus, in the studio, they're going to have a switcher and a producer. So I think I counted about 10 people.
Disc golf rich.
Boom! So I'm excited because
holy cow.
on 2 things. One, I like to think that it takes, 5 people to do my job.
You're all man and then some.
That's right.
There's 5 men in you. Right? Is that what you're saying?
That sounds weird, and I don't like that. It's not.
That's what I heard.
We're going to roll that back a little bit. I'll take that out of the podcast. So ultimately, my expectations are a little higher for
Mine are way higher.
Really?
And they should be.
I don't think so. Personally, I've had this discussion online.
If you're going to spend that kind of money, you're going to have that much equipment. Well, if you're going to spend that kind of money, you're going to have that much equipment. You're going to have that many tools and resources all on site and at your disposal. The product should be great. Now, we all can make mistakes and things can go wrong. Don't get me wrong. But I'm saying that sounds like a recipe for a really great broadcast.
Here's
expensive, probably, but really great. Well, you got to pay for what you get.
You're paying for labor for at least 10 people, probably.
Heck
so,
yeah.
So I'm sure whatever was paid, it was a lot.
But I'm expecting it to be great. I expected last year's to be great. They had nearly as many people last year.
I will say this.
3 times as many cameras as we're used to seeing.
I am disappointed that we're losing out on hole 17. And I know some people had an issue with that because they showed a lot of 17 in a lot of the booth as opposed to following the lead card. And so this is the pendulum swinging back, saying, oh, you guys want lead card? We're going to give you lead card. We got 4 cameras on lead card, plus you're going to have the spin crew there. So that lead card is probably going to have 7 cameras on it. Legit, seriously, like 7 cameras on one card.
Plus my hidden GoPro.
Oh, yeah. It's going to go with the joke there. Let's back that up. So I really liked 17 as a concept because I felt that you had a beautiful backdrop for your studio. You had these 2 static cameras so you could always go to when there's action there. I felt like last year the ball was dropped on using that properly. And that's fine. They had a cool drone shot, which I think they showed for about 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a cool view, which I think they're going to have again this year. But my expectations, and I'll say this, I have SmashBox level expectations for them. If they can provide, because I feel our product right now is as good as it's ever been. And if they can come out for their second broadcast, basically, their second disc golf broadcast, they do a lot of Ultimate, and provide at bare necessity what we provide, I find that a success. That's where my expectation level is. And I don't think because people, and I'll say this, and this isn't necessarily what you're saying, people are saying, hey, we're paying for this, so we're going to expect more.
Yeah.
I don't like that mentality.
I don't either.
Because just because we've been giving it away for free for years to the viewer, because other people are paying for it, all you're doing is shifting who's paying.
Yeah.
Like, great, we're not having the sponsors pay now. Now we're having the people pay. And I know that's not you. We even just said there's no way they're covering their costs with the pay-per-view. There's still sponsors paying for it. You're still going to probably see some ads. You're still going to see, pieces like Jamie Thomas and I were joking. You're going to see like a 3-minute piece on Winthrop probably. And people are going to be like, oh, I thought there was no ads. You're still going to get that stuff. And that's fine because you do need filler content. You're going to be live for 3.5 hours, if not more. So my expectations are, if you can match what SmashBox does, you're successful. That's my level.
That's the minimum.
That is the base level. If you can't do,
and that's not a compliment to us, I just think that should be the minimum. With that much money, that much equipment, that much energy and effort, with the stage, the venue that's been set and barely changed in any major ways in the last 15 or 20 years. And I mean that in a good way. Like, that venue is the venue. There's no major surprises out there. This should be good. And that's not a, in any way am I being negative. I'm just saying it should be good. They have all of the keys and the recipes,
they have
whatever.
all the parts.
Throw all the cliches together, the ingredients that you want to use here. I expect it to be good. Now, I don't expect it to be flawless because I just don't think that's possible. Just like you're saying, there's going to be an occasional glitch in a signal.
You're going to watch a cameraman wander away without them switching off
not realizing,
that
they were the live cameraman. I'm going to expect all of those possible slight human error things that can happen, because we're still not dealing with a multi-million-dollar, 300 crew project. So they have 10 or 12 people. We're used to 4 or 6 people. I'm not expecting them to be flawless, and I'm not going to hold them to that standard. And again, we're still not dealing with ESPN quality equipment at every turn. They're going with a different model, and that's fine, but there's still things that can go wrong there. So I give a pass on all of that stuff. I just expect it. I expect it to be, you say Smash, but I expect it to be even better with everything that they have in place. I feel like it will be a letdown if they're not as good or better. That's just me expecting the standards to be raised.
I understand that, and
that's not a negative.
And I'm trying to keep things more realistic. Like, I would love to see them blow us out of the water and say, wow, this is what you can do with a big budget.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the same conversation we had last year.
It's like verbatim.
Like you have this huge monster budget relative to disc golf terms.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking even ESPN3 budget. But relative to disc golf terms, you have this big budget. So you should notice that you have the parts. But I also look at the experience they have. I look at in disc golf. I look at some of the, I said this earlier, I've been doing this for 5 years. I've switched 60, 70 shows, 200, 300, 400 rounds probably. I'm still learning. I'm still picking up cool little things I can do better. And
yeah, you make mistakes every day.
I make a lot of mistakes
every day,
every time,
every single time.
A lot of mistakes, like a lot of mistakes.
A lot.
So I just have to me, I have to set, and then you have like, this is where they need to set expectations. I was on a discussion with someone at Disc Golf Course Review, and they said, hey, you shouldn't tell me what I should expect. I said, no, that's exactly what I need to be doing. Like, and they didn't say it with that attitude. I just inflected that. But as we'll say a vendor, and I'm not, as we said, we're not for USDGC. It's my job to set expectations. We've seen what happens when people get their expectations way high and are delivered something that's not meeting them. We saw it really well this year. So I think they need to be setting expectations at a specific level, because there are people that are going to come out and think, oh, it's pay-per-view? Cool, I'm going to get like 2 or 3 cards of coverage. I'm going to get, I'm going to get, these awesome interviews and all this other stuff. Like, I don't,
live drone shots.
Yeah, live drone shots. They're going to follow the camera with the drone.
The drone only follows the leader. And every time the leader is throwing, there's going to be a special dedicated drone shot just on the leader's throws.
I heard Kenny's literally riding in a drone.
Yes.
Like, it's a human-sized drone that Kenny Climo is going to fly around on.
Uh-huh.
So I think they need to make sure to set the expectations and then exceed them and give a solid production. Like, give me apparently what people want is solid lead card the whole way through, and then fill some time with some other shots. That's what people want. And if that's not $10 for you, don't buy it. Then this is not for you. Like, you stick with post-production.
Yeah, and I will break your hearts now for those that are wondering. There will be commercials. There absolutely will be. Yeah. And there will absolutely be filler pieces, because as you just said, a lot of people say, well, I'm paying for it now. I don't want to see any commercials. Well, that's not how that works. You're still going to see commercials, and I will certainly explain on their behalf. Sometimes commercials and or other pieces are part of the programming to help the actual program. Meaning, you may watch a 45-second commercial because you have 2 cameramen that are trying to go to the bathroom, All right. So we'll just get them on another hole or give us another shot or have them go catch other action. No, they have to go to the bathroom. They stopped at they're taking a drink of water. Everyone's taking a 45-second timeout that's on the crew. Therefore, a commercial is going to run. Or there's literally 2 minutes of walking from this green to the next tee. That's when a commercial is going to happen. So commercials aren't always just about selling advertisements. They're also about helping the actual broadcast itself.
Jamie Thomas on Disc Golf Course Review is a little bit involved in this. And for those of you that don't know, the commentators are Jamie Thomas and Hannah Macbeth. And Ken Klima will be in there at times. I heard part-time, so I wouldn't expect him the entire time, but he will definitely be part of the broadcast. Jamie did say that they're looking at definitely having some commercials, limited, but some, and also giveaways. So if you're interested in that type of stuff, please, by all means, then do sign up. And there apparently there will be a chat board as well. That was a big question. Some people were really worried about, like, will there be a community I can talk with rather than just watching it? Some people watch it by themselves and they feel by themselves. And it's not as much fun than if you have an active chat board, regardless of what that chat board is talking about. They could be talking about the newest Rambo movie, but it's still interaction. And a lot of people really like that. And I really like it personally as well, because I think it adds to the community feeling of our sport. As Stokely was talking about, it's now part of that. And so he said that there probably will be a chat board. He's fairly certain of it. And now he might be mistaken, but that is what I've gotten from him. So ultimately, my thought is, and I know a lot of people are going to crucify me for this, I don't think they went far enough. I think they should have put all the media behind a paywall, period. USDGC has a product that everybody wants to see, and they control it. And I don't know if they couldn't. Maybe it was a PDGA thing. The PDGA said, no, you can't do that. Maybe they didn't want to do that. Maybe they didn't want to take that second step. But personally, if you really want to earn some money for Edge, which is where a portion of the proceeds are going, put it all behind a paywall. Sure. I guarantee you, even if it's for a week, cool, you're not going to get post-production for a week. You want to make some money for Edge, that's how you do it. Like, you want to make your money back on the media, that's probably how you do it. Like, then you get people signing up. I feel that this is a stopgap solution, that they don't feel like they could do that this year without pitchforks coming out. And that I'm praying that we see something like that in the future. And I know I'm a man on an island there. I truly am.
Well, like that's because you're trying to find a way
to be sustainable.
To sustain, and everybody else wants free disc golf coverage instantly.
Somebody asked me online why I want that. And I said, because it's about sustainability. It's about the fact that right now, the PDGA pays a bunch of money out to the media crews, us and everybody, any post-production video you see on a national tour. What does the PDGA get out of it? Some eyeballs. I see there is almost zero actual return for the events. The PDGA might see an uptick in registrations for PDGA events. They might see an uptick in membership. It's very possible. But ultimately, the events, they're all filling. All those NTs are full. They don't need the eyeballs, the views. Like, ooh, maybe I should go to that next year. It's full. It's a pro event. I'm sorry, you're not. The GBO is a pro and am event, and it's full. It doesn't even, I think, open for another couple weeks for registration. It's probably already full.
Yeah, they filled last night.
Yeah. And so my thought is, the only people making a bunch of money right now are the media crews. Like, not you, but some of the media crews.
I was just gonna say,
you're resigned to C tiers in Norway, buddy.
Yeah, no
those are the only people.
Yes,
those are the only people making money off this right now. The tournaments aren't. The tours aren't. The sponsors clearly aren't making money, although, define how a sponsor makes money, but they're advertising. But if you want to truly make sure that these tours can grow and put something back towards the actual event, maybe pay a TD, maybe after a year or two actually earn money and put it towards a purse, that's what you should be looking to do. And I know there's people out there that are screaming, no, don't change anything. Keep it the way it is. Cool. If you never want to grow, by all means, please continue to do that. But until we suck it up and start actually paying for what we're watching, that it can go back into what we're doing, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
These tours, there's a reason why, Steve Dodge doesn't have the Disc Golf Pro Tour anymore. It's because he couldn't make enough money off of it. I don't see another way to make money. And I know I'm, again, man on an island here, but I want to see these tours sustain and grow, get bigger, put more money in, hopefully maybe use that to attract bigger sponsors. And at some point, if we get a huge sponsor, we can maybe take it out from behind a paywall is my thought. Like when we get that Kraft, Nike, whomever steps up, Dick's Sporting Goods,
ScottStokely.net.
ScottStokely.net. At that point, someone that can say, no, we want more people to see this, so we will pay for everything. Sorry. Like, it's not.
I guess the simplest way,
it's my opinion.
I would leave the thought with everyone is, who should pay for disc golf media? Like, that's the question I want you to think about tonight. I want you to think about when you make a Facebook post tomorrow. It would be awesome. Tag me, say, I thought about it, and here's who I think should pay for disc golf media. The media that's consumed, I would like to know who, because everyone's got a different angle or side, and I'd go almost as far as to clarify or challenge you to say someone other than the manufacturers, because that's what 90% of you want to answer with is, well, the manufacturer should. Innova's making all the money, Prodigy, so on and so forth. They're making all the money. They should pay for disc golf media. And I've said it before. The manufacturer pays Paul Ulibarri. When he's safe and comes back, they're going to pay for his entry fee to play in the tournament. Discraft's going to pay for Paul Ulibarri when he does well in the tournament. Discraft's then going to write a check to the tournament director or give them merchandise because they're sponsoring the tournament. Discraft is going to sponsor the tour that tournament is on, a pro tour or a national tour. They're likely sponsoring that. And then you want Discraft to also pay for the media to then cover said tournament that they've just plastered themselves on. I'm just saying that well is going to dry up, and I'm just using Discraft and Paul Ulibarri as an example. Our manufacturers, and I'm not in bed with any of them, but our manufacturers, I personally feel like I can only go to so many times and say, hey, can you help support this, even though I know they've been asked in every one of those other situations and are expected to shell out money for those things as well. So if it's not a manufacturer, who should be paying for disc golf media? That's the question I'd love for you guys to think about.
Yeah, it's tough. And I know
and I'll say I genuinely don't have an answer either.
Me neither. Like
I don't. We're in the business, we're in the industry. I don't know who that is, but I'm going to tell you the manufacturer well is going to dry up or is going to shrink because they can only be asked so many times.
Someone had asked about, John, under your plan, how do we get to watch old stuff? How do we get to binge watch old events? And I say, it eventually comes out from behind a paywall. It's only there for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Enough for those of us who are diehards to sit and watch it. At that point, it becomes open to everybody. And then you say, cool. Because people are gonna yell at me like, that's not how you grow the sport, putting things behind a paywall. And I say, guess what? Most people are probably not in dire need of next day coverage. It's only us diehards. Like, those are the people that really, really, really want next day coverage. There's probably about 2,000 to 3,000 of us out there that really, really need next day coverage. Like, everybody else can wait a couple days or a week. You know, that's just how it is. And so I do want it available to go out and look at, you know, oh, cool. I want to watch USDGC from 2018 because I want to kind of see how the course played and this and that. And it should be out there for the new kid that just joins that wants to check out all the cool coverage for this new pro that he loves, and he wants to go see how they played at these events. I am 100% open to that. And on top of that, it adds to the ability of for these companies for advertising in the future and later on down the road, this and that. So I'm for that. I just think that, like Terry said, if it's not manufacturers, I don't know who it is, because we've been running this circle for how long is Scott? 1976, and no big sponsor seems to be stepping up and, you know, trying us right now. And we are growing. We're constantly growing, but we've been constantly growing for 10 years. I don't know how big we need to get, if we're ever going to get big enough that a company is going to be able to come in and take control, so to speak, of our sport.
Well, the funny part is, and we'll move on from the subject. We've beat it to death. But the funny part is when someone says, well, we need sponsors. Oh, man, I don't want to watch another commercial from that sponsor. Like, you have to realize that, you know, I know some people are saying, well, we don't want to watch a manufacturer or commercial or whatever. And it's like, currently, they're the ones paying so that you can watch this at all. Again, they help the broadcast from a strategic standpoint, but they also do want to get their message out because guess what? They're the ones footing the bill.
This is a funny experiment, but if you have a Roku or even, I think, a smartphone, open up some streaming app like a CW, which I watch some of the superhero
or an
shows.
XXX.
I don't think that's one, no.
Okay.
Watch one of their shows. You will get the same commercial, sometimes 2 to 3 times in a row, fed to you every commercial break. And it's kind of, I laugh at it because I think, like, wow, man, like, I get it. It's online advertising. It's not like true television, but I'm really getting sick of seeing the same Jiffy commercial, man. And even I say that when I'm watching that. And at least we have a couple, we have a handful. We've got like 15 to 20 different commercials, and you might get sick of seeing them day after day, but I chuckle. Just like the other night when I was watching the news, they were throwing to a field reporter, and this poor woman is standing there, and she's just going, yeah, and in front of her, like, sticking up from the lens was a thumb, like, you're on. So all I saw was a thumb and this woman going, yeah, and then finally they cut back to the anchor, and the anchor is like, okay, we're gonna catch up with them a little bit later, and my wife thought I was gonna die from laughing because all I kept thinking is, like, these are multi-million-dollar local news organizations, and they're still screwing up. So I don't feel so bad. Like, I know we screw up, but it makes me feel good to watch a pro screw up once in a while.
Well, the good news is when you screw up, everybody's there to tell you. Nobody's ever short of letting you know.
I know.
I heard I once screwed up, and boy, oh boy, did the internet let me know. All right, guys, we're going to call things here. We've got some after-show fodder and conversation that still can be had. This maybe even could have been an after-show conversation, but nonetheless, we are super thankful for you guys to join us tonight as we went down a little bit down memory lane and a few old school stories and insights into Scott Stokely. Clearly, that is not even the tip of the iceberg when you're going to be looking for that book written by Scott, as he graciously gave us that exclusive update and info and release here tonight. ScottStokely.net is where you can check that out. Again, we'll move into the after show. We've got a Saint Pro to give away. And who knows what else will get talked about. I'm sure we've got a few other notes. And as always,
some updates.
We love to hear from you. So get fired up.
If this conversation didn't fire you up,
get fired up, go find
will.
those sponsors, and then join us in the chat board. Hopefully you have some questions and other things to bring at us in the after show. For Johnny V and myself and Scott Stokely.net and his new book, this has been podcast number 266. We'll see you in the after show. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxx TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxx TV's podcast 266
After Show. For those of you that maybe didn't notice, Terry's got himself a new pop filter. You can see his face now, for better or worse.
And to celebrate, I had some Pop Rocks. No, it is, yeah, sure.
It's small.
It's not a, what does a pop filter run? How much?
That particular metal one for that particular Heil PR40, I think ran $45.
Holy cow.
Maybe $55.
How does it sound without me?
Don't yank on it. Oh my gosh.
How much does this help?
The pop filter, it probably helps a lot, especially when you're punctuating your P's quite a bit. It's stopping the plosives.
Really?
Yeah. It stops literally the air from pushing out on that. Unless you really emphasize it. It should stop most of the plosives.
Give it good.
Which I think
gets there.
I think it's funny that the word plosive is the P.
Yeah, I guess that it is. Well,
it could be that could have been called anything, but it's a plosive.
Like implosive? Explosive?
Probably more like explosive. Closer.
Well, anyway, here we are, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. As always, we invite you, if you are on the YouTubes, you can sign into the chat, probably come up with some fake or crazy name, and if you do something naughty or say something that's really bad, we'll block or ban you. But for the most part, everyone's really well behaved, and during the after show, we love to talk about things that are either disc golf or not disc golf related.
I have a few slight disc golf things related.
All right. So we have that, but one of the most exciting parts of our after show, if you are here live, is we really interact and read from the chat board that's coming in from YouTube. If it's happening on Facebook Live, if you're watching it there or watching it in, well, sometime later, sorry, we probably didn't see the message and or react to it or interact with it. However, if you're doing it directly on YouTube's chat board, we are probably seeing it. I very openly will take some of your thoughts, ideas, questions, regurgitate them, make them sound as if they're originally or uniquely my own, and then we'll go from there. But we do love to see if you have questions or things that you want to talk about. Just for the record, Carver John, as his login, is not been a fan. So I wanted to.
I know
I wanted to put it out there because he has now posted 60 to 70,000 times that he's not pleased with the USDGC plan. So Carver, I have officially carried out your position and stance on it. So now the whole world knows. You can stop posting it because now I've shared it with everyone. You are not pleased.
And I want to say, as of right now, I understand that. If live coverage isn't for you, post-production is great. I would never try to convince anybody that one is better than the other. They each have their ups and downs. One of the other things someone said to me was, well, I'm not going to subscribe or watch live until you're Jomez quality. And I said, cool, that's great. That's not happening anytime soon because of the logistics. But let me know when post-production can get to our quality and cut in second and third card coverage when someone's making a run. Like,
burn.
But quality is different. Unfortunately, those guys are beholden to some crazy rule where, guess what? If I'm commentating on one card, I can't even talk about another card for fear of spoiling it. Because I don't want to talk about the card that maybe somebody else is covering for fear that the internet is going to riot and pitchforks are going to be attacking me for spoiling things. Like, each one has a positive and negative, and you have to decide which one fits best for you. I said I would rather watch a cruddy Facebook live stream. I find more excitement in that than post-production. I like post-production for data, but show me it live. I want to live it. So, again, beating a dead horse, but Carver John, I get your point. I understand. If please make all the right choices in your life. If $10 is too much for you, I get it. Don't spend it. Go buy yourself some food, pay rent, credit card, mortgage, whatever you want to do with your $10. There's other options out there for you.
Along those lines, and next week I think we're going to have Jay Redding probably giving us a little bit more details about the charity way, the charity and the way that you can be more involved next week with the USDGC. What I would think, and I'm not trying to put them on the spot entirely, but I would think it'd be pretty cool if our friends over at the USDGC maybe gifted us anywhere from 2 to 10 passes to give away for the live broadcast. I think that'd be a cool.
That would be kind of cool
gift.
Give away, I could
so
see.
I mean, I'm just going to put the screws a little tight and tell them that'd be a great idea next week for the show for us to gift some of their live viewership passes. But anyway, just a thought. Chris, I'm going to read a few quick things from the board. Johnny's got some ideas, and we're going to get to those in a second. Let me read off the board quickly, though. Chris Carpenter asks, why can't Colorado seem to get a top-tier tournament? Elevation? Elevation?
I bet you that
has
changes.
Popular demand.
I bet you that changes in the next couple of years with the Discmania warehouse being there.
Correct.
And having maybe a more... maybe a slightly even more stronger, a slightly stronger disc golf community. And I know I don't want to put anybody down with their community, but it does require people to band together and have volunteers, all that stuff. And if your area doesn't have a big event, that could be part of the problem, or it could be just a course selection problem. There are multiple reasons why maybe it's not happening, but I'm hoping I don't really care personally either way, but for your sake, I'm hoping that with Discmania kind of starting to be there, that maybe you'll see some more of that.
I'll give the same answer that I will give every single time I see the majors and the national tours and all the other bids get awarded. The first complaint that comes in, and I'll pick on California a little bit, guys. I always will see someone from California say, oh, why can't we have a Worlds? Why don't they ever give us a Worlds? Why don't they, or some other big event?
The bids are still open.
It's all about the bids. And so same thing with a big event. In order to have a big event, I mean, you need, though, a dedicated crew and someone that wants to go out and raise money to meet the minimum requirements to have a large-scale event. Then you need the good courses. Then you need the volunteer base, like all of those things. So it's not I'll say, I don't think a lot of those issues are a matter of somebody not being capable. It's a matter of all of those things coming together. I mean, I get frustrated when I see every year someone saying out in California, why don't we ever get these big events? Maybe you're not even bidding on them, or you are, but your bid's not strong enough.
There are some events that are easier to get than others, and there are some that are very difficult to get.
Yeah, it's all of those things have to be in place in order, even here in Wisconsin, I've heard some people say, why don't we have a pro tour or a national tour event? Well, you need a TD that's willing to go out and raise a ton of money and to have them done on very good courses that fit into a certain time of the schedule. All of those things are the ingredients that are needed to have a big event. So,
a couple housekeeping notes, disc golf related.
go ahead. My computer is like melting.
I don't know what his problem is. For our Smashbox supporters, our clothing level, I know I said it last week and I'll say it again this week. Invoice has been paid to Miles at Paragon, so he will hopefully be getting those printed up and sent to you. A polo shirt. We have a lot of people always asking us about merch and disc golf stuff. I've talked to Terry before the show, and we're finalizing some details about a new website and a store. So I'll be reaching out, and hopefully we'll be taking care of that in the next couple days. And it'll be a little bit before it's all fully developed, but I hope to have it up, maybe either towards the end of this year or early next year. And
we should sell Jomez gear on there. I think it sells really well.
I bet you that would sell really well.
We should do that. We won't tell them.
Well, no, we'll buy it from them and resell it. Winner, winner.
Oh my gosh.
They win.
We win. Everybody
wins. Jomez, think about that. I'm just saying.
Jonathan. Yeah.
And for Skip Ace, I was able to work with my web developer about working around the USDGC, the FPO requirement. So we were able to take that out. So the USDGC is
they
now.
They took women out of the USDGC?
No, they did that a while ago.
Oh!
No, the fact that it was requiring women to an FPO field. And because they don't have an FPO field, they only have one field, it wouldn't let people make picks. So I removed it for a bit. I brought it back. We were able to work around it. The salary cap is still 6,000 points. So basically you can pick whoever you want for your picks. So there's going to be no restrictions for USDGC. If you want to go ahead and pick the top 4 people, top 4 rated people, go ahead. I'll say this. It's a lefty course. Lefties play. You may want to maybe look at someone who has a really good forehand or a good lefty like a Zach Melton. I'm predicting good things for Zach Melton this year.
Even with that haircut.
Even with the haircut. And the whole facial thing. Like it's the beard and I don't know.
And the knee brace.
So there's that. We didn't even talk about USDGC course changes. They announced some new course changes. They're taking out holes 1 and 2. Those are gone. Hole 2 is going to be like a vendor area or a hospitality area, maybe that type of thing. Hole 1 is just run its course. They kind of feel. The 2 new holes will be after the old hole 3 is now 1. 4 is now 2. Before you go to 5, there are 2 new holes. And I think we kind of briefly touched on this last week, but now they've actually announced it. They've got new hole 3, which is this big, basically, I think it's like 500 plus feet, but it's a big 470 foot, I think I heard, slight turnover to about a 25-foot double mando. So everyone's going to be doing that, pitching up for the double mando, probably taking a 3 on the hole. Unless you have a poor drive and you might have to lay up again. New hole 4 is 299 feet through 2 double mandos. There's a double mando, 40 or 50 feet off the fairway. A bunch of kind of like a row of trees that you have to shoot through. And then another double mando, what looked to be about 45 to 50 feet previous to the hole, to the basket. So it's someone sent me a picture of what that particular hole looked like. And it ain't easy. Like, it says 299, but I bet you're going to see a lot of people throw putter shots, get through that first mando, try to get within 80 feet of the basket, come up short of the mando, and then long putt it. I think that's going to be the play. You're going to have a few people that are going to try to go for it, but the trees that are there very easily could ricochet you 50 feet off the fairway. And granted, each fairway is you're not in danger because it's open, but then having to get to the mando again is going to be difficult. So I'm optimistic about those particular holes and how they play. It's going to be interesting. The rest of the course is pretty much the same with a few tiny little tweaks.
Yeah, and hole 16, the old hole 16, has gotten the
That's where the sticks went.
The sticks, the mozzarella sticks, as some people
call
call
them mozzarella sticks.
Yeah.
Yes, that is that they were moved to somewhere on hole 16. I heard. I haven't seen.
I think right next to the basket.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which side? The side that splits 8 and 16, or on?
I believe on
because that's
six,
parallel, right?
Correct. I believe on the left side, and so not the side that. But again, I saw one photo that led me to think that they were on the other side, on the left side of hole 16's. I don't know if there's if the caddy guide has them depicted on there or not. But I did see that. Yeah, and it was a very weird angle that I saw it on. So I guess I'll be quiet about it because I don't know.
Nathan Duttile out there says, JVD, you did great with Eric Oakley interview last week. Well, thank you. Again, I want to thank Eric. He jumped on at the very last minute, and I was excited to get his perspective because he's been, no offense, but he's been playing so poorly lately.
Oh, okay.
Since Worlds.
Yeah.
And
hey,
going through a slump.
You want to get on the show and
going through a slump is something we don't get to talk to people about a lot, and because we talk to a lot of winners. And Eric Oakley is definitely not a winner. No, I'm just kidding. Eric Oakley has not been playing up to his expectations, and we talked all about that. So it was really nice to kind of get that perspective on how he's going to try to, what he needs to do to get out of that slump. So thank you, Nathan. Are there any big names that aren't that are going to try to qualify on Monday? Have you heard?
I have not, and I'll admit I have not been fully up to speed.
Are you going to try to qualify?
Yes, but not for that.
Oh, jeez.
There's a lot of things I'm trying to qualify for often, but USDGC Monday is not one of them. No, in fact, I just canceled my flight to the USDGC.
Oh, okay.
When there were some early talks about us possibly being involved, I saw a very good deal on some airline tickets, and I thought, well, I'm going to jump on it in case this comes to fruition. Even if it doesn't come to fruition, maybe I'll be more involved in a personal manner. I could find some way to do something else while I'm there in terms of some kind of coverage or recap or show or whatever. And there was really nothing that materialized, and then we got the news just yesterday with regards to the live, the pay-per-view, and everything else that they were doing, Jomez on Chase Card. And it didn't sound like there was really a role or necessarily a budget for me to be involved. And I had to make the really, I'd say, disheartening and disappointing decision that I think for the third year in a row, I will not be on site in any capacity, which breaks my heart. But
I know it does.
I
know we're going to be getting, probably get the normal PDGA wrap-up video and probably the nightly podcast. But I thought I read something about a post-game show, so to speak. So what we might see is in that studio with Jamie, Hannah, and Kenny, we might see some sort of wrap-up show, which I'm really curious and interested because it's a concept we've all talked about for a long time. So I want to see how they're able to pull that off and do that. So if that's the case, I'm really excited to be able to catch that.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I know we talked about the sheer quantity of cameramen and then people, producers, graphics people, I don't know exact count of editors. That's even a slightly different role.
Yeah, that's
but with the
different.
quantity of people that are slated or have been, scheduled or talked about being there, I'm really, really excited and hoping for something a little more out of the ordinary and some next level. I think even as Jonathan Poole, the tournament director, stated something to me, something about, groundbreaking or something along those lines. Yeah, that's exactly what I think we're all expecting
that.
And anticipating.
Don't use the word expecting.
Well, that's what I'm expecting.
We're hoping.
I'm expecting.
I know. What else? What else do we have?
Well, I want to quickly say out here and understandable. Well, not understandable is not the term I'm going for. Earlier today, I saw on Facebook someone a little bit more regional to us, especially here in the Midwest. It sounds like Chris Sprague, who, as stated online here, has more than 100 wins. He has taught a lot of people, has taken people under his wing.
Course designer.
Very much a course designer, very an analytical player, and just always has such a good spirit about him. It sounds like he's having a little bit of, and he's with the term you used, younger.
He's our age. He's like exactly our age.
I think he's a year or two older than us. Yes, exactly. So he's definitely younger. And it sounds like he's just having a little bit of health concern. I know pneumonia was the term that was thrown around or mentioned. So we wish him the best. I believe there's also a GoFundMe of sorts that's become available out there. Chris Sprague, 16425 or something like that. If I had to guess at his PDJ number, I haven't looked it up in a while.
Chris has always been a fan of ours, and we've always gotten.
Holy cow! It was right.
Jeez, Terry.
That was pretty good. That was a solid pull.
That is a solid.
Honestly,
pull.
I knew it was.
Chris is a great guy, and if you feel the urge to help support, I think there's a GoFundMe out there for him to help cover some of the costs. He does have insurance, which is good, but as we all know, it only covers so much, and there's loss of wages because he's not working and this and that. So it's something you can look at if you're interested in that, and it's out there. So we wish nothing but the best for Chris, and hopefully get well.
Yes. Hopefully we'll see him quickly back on his feet and road to recovery. Certainly at a almost not even worth mentioning scale when talking about sickness. As I was returning home from Norway, like I was instantly hit with, I actually went to the doctor the other day myself. I was instantly hit with like a sinus pressure infection. My ear wouldn't pop, that whole thing. I ended up getting an antibiotic and just feeling miserable throughout the entire weekend. And I'm still feeling a little bit of it right now.
And I totally threw you under the bus and blamed you, even though it wasn't 100% true. Someone reached out and said, hey, how come you and Terry didn't go down to Illinois to play the event?
Yeah.
You guys signed up for it, and I was really excited to listen to you guys trash talk. That's part of it. Terry came back. He was sick. It was pouring out at the event. I saw like 40 or 50 people withdrew.
Yeah, it sounds miserable.
Yeah, that sounds miserable. But on
to
top
play
of
a course we've never played.
No, it's Anna Page Park.
No, you haven't played the South Course.
Oh, that's a new.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. See,
ooh, I never played. I was going to go there and just assume it was one of the two courses on that park that I had played.
Three.
But now there's three.
Yes, it's been there for a few years.
Anyway, so Terry was sick, so he felt that it wasn't necessarily in his best interest to go and suffer through those conditions in his condition. So we both withdrew because I didn't want to go down there by myself and spend the night or get up early and play in the rain and whatever.
Yeah.
So it just, a lot of it was miserable. So we withdrew from the event. That's why we didn't go to the event.
Yeah, I would have loved
rain
to
and sickness.
go down. I've got roots in Rockford, nearly 20 some years old, or from 20 years ago. I would have. I've never seen actually the new South Course, which I almost sound stupid even calling it. I think the new South Course because I think it's been 2 or 3 years. I think it's
still new because considering I don't
maybe
think I've
even
been to Anna
4.
Page.
Yeah, you haven't been there
9
at
or 10.
least, in quite a few years, for sure. So,
yep. Ryan Pilcher says it wasn't that bad. The South Course was great. The tee pads are the worst I've ever played on in a tournament.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I'm sorry I missed that.
Yeah. Sorry. Hopefully they get that work. I'm sure that's something they're working on. Makes sense.
I instead did, well, I guess I could have done it even though it was on Sunday, but Saturday I got to see my daughter perform and do a little volunteering and everything else. It was actually different being home for being in the state, in my hometown, my actual residence for 2 or 3 consecutive days. I'll admit, threw me a bit off myself.
Yeah, we had, on a personal note, we had the last 2 weeks have been, I said last week I'd had a bad week, and it continued on. I shared it on Facebook. 2 to 2.5 weeks ago, my wife went in for her normal checkup, get the whole mammogram stuff, and they found a spot. It was like, wherever. And so we spent.
It was wherever.
I don't want to get too graphic as to where exactly it was, but
fair enough.
Everyone can use their imagination. Kids, ask your parents. I know. At least you had to. I mean, you didn't have from memory.
No, not me. Nope.
So thankfully, so there was some questions for a few weeks. She went in, got everything checked out, had a biopsy, and thankfully just yesterday we got the results back, and we're good. So benign cyst, and she got another checkup in 6 months, but that is a lot of stress off of my particular plate that I don't have to worry about. So it was, I don't want to say the term touch and go isn't the right way to say it, but it was stressful for a few weeks here at the house. So I'm very happy that is all cleared up. I feel safe because she shared it on Facebook and then I shared it. Because it was,
and the only reason why I'm able to chuckle at the moment, it'd be really bad if I were chuckling otherwise.
That would be true.
There was something else. Yeah, to where to go from there. No, there was something else right at the tip of my tongue to discuss, and now it drives me crazy that I can't think
I'm sorry, did my wife's chest throw you off of your thought?
Again? Yes, that's what I wanted to talk about. Upon returning from Norway, I was still there, I think. I had captured, and I knew this was coming, so don't think anyone surprised me. I said it to him. I don't know if I said it to you as well. I took it upon myself to take the 23-meter ace that Avery Jenkins had carded. I had it on my phone because we were out playing the round. I had it on my phone. I actually took to Adobe Rush, and I know I alluded to it, and for some of you may tune out, and that's fine, but I took to Adobe Rush, which is basically a basic editing program that's meant for tablets and phones. And I challenged myself to put together a slightly enhanced version of that video of Avery hitting this ace. Yes, I know it's 75 or 76 feet, and everybody got really worked up over the term ace, as I called. I figured people would, but
not everybody.
To me, most of that project, I wasn't going for the $6 in views I'm going to make on YouTube. For me, the project was to actually challenge myself to use this program, and it was a perfect opportunity to do so for this clip. But what ensued was, of course, people getting really bent out of shape.
Really?
Oh gosh, yes.
Like I saw some people be like, "That's not a great ace. I don't know why you'd put that out there."
Well,
but
why wouldn't you put 23 meters in the title? That was what someone said.
Someone expected like a 250-foot ace.
I have so many questions that I genuinely, I know they sound snarky and cocky when I write them, but they're not. Here's my questions.
They are a little bit sometimes.
Well, sometimes they are, but these weren't. What's the magic distance where it's officially an ace?
Guess what? If the basket is right in front of the tee pad and I can reach over and drop it in, that's an ace, my friend.
If it's tee to pin, okay.
Tee to pin.
First throw, first try.
I don't even care if it's first throw. If I sit at a 300-foot, or we'll even say 120-foot shot from the tee, and I throw 15 shots and the 15th one goes in, that's an ace. It's nothing I'm going to brag about. It's nothing I'm going to sit and be like, yeah, man, I got an ace. But it's tee to basket. I mean, what more do you want? Does it count if it's an ace if I throw 5 shots? I walk to the next hole, I throw 5 shots, I miss. I come back to that hole, throw 5 shots, or throw the first shot and make it. Is it because I literally stepped off of the tee pad and came back that suddenly that ace counts, even if I only went to one other hole? There's so many stupid rules that people apparently have. Guess what? I take a disc, I stand on a tee pad, my disc goes into the basket it's meant to. That's an ace. I don't care what you say about it. It just depends. Again, there are aces you can brag about. There are aces that you get that you're just like, cool, I'm racking up numbers. Like, that's great. Avery appeared like he was happy he got it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect him to walk off the tee and cry. Exactly. I mean, you don't expect him to cry.
He didn't go and pull the basket out and raise it over his head. I mean, he knows what it is. You know what it is. Everybody knows what it is. It's a fun course. Look at Fuel Park in Rock Hill, where some of those holes are like under 100 feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's still an ace. I don't care what you say, man.
Well, people, and I get it. You're exactly right. It's not one you would brag about. Avery wasn't bragging. I wasn't bragging on his behalf. I wasn't trying to clickbait you into something that that didn't happen. It was an ace on his first throw. He didn't even throw 6 at it. He threw his very first shot. And then not only the distance, but then I said, one example was a little more lengthy on one of the responses when someone said, I wouldn't brag about it. And I said, I agree, sure. But if you came home and your significant other say to you, hey, you played disc golf today, anything happen out there? Are you telling me you wouldn't even mention it? It's because someone said they wouldn't mention it. You wouldn't mention it? You wouldn't even say, nothing. Like, you'd probably say, well, I hit an ace. It was, 75 feet. So I don't even hardly count it. But yeah, I hit one. Like, I could see that response. But to call it anything but an ace is what I truly struggled with when people are referencing it. Because you know what? Your 5-year-old hits that? What are you doing?
Oh, you're posting it and saying, my kid hit an ace.
Bingo.
Period.
Because there's no other word for it.
Yep.
That you would explain to someone without trying to sound awkward or dumb. You'd be like, well, I went out to the course this morning.
They threw it in one.
Yeah, and there's this hole, and, again, I'm good with qualifying it and explaining it, but you would still refer to it as an ace. Not an impressive one, fine.
Yeah, no.
But it's still an ace.
So here's a question, and I think this brings us back about 20 years. We're at Plowman Park, you and I. We walk up to, I think it was hole 13. It's right after the downhill one where the kids used to steal.
So 14 then.
14.
13's the downhill.
13's the downhill. 14. There was something up with the tee pad. I don't know if it was muddy. It was just unplayable. I think you played off on the road to the right. Just like perfectly parallel to it.
Sure.
You threw it in for one, I believe.
Okay.
Is that
Sounds
an ace?
like something I would do.
Is that an ace? Because you didn't technically play from the tee pad. You played from, I believe it was a first shot. I think this is literally 20 years ago. But to me, that was always like, yeah, that's an ace. I mean, you threw it in one shot. You didn't throw it from the tee pad, but you weren't any closer. You played from a spot that you felt safe about.
Yeah, I was just going to say, given this situation now.
I'm not. You didn't play it like halfway down the fairway and throw it in there. Even though, guess what? If that's a known AM tee pad, we'll say, if it's just like kind of that,
sure,
that's a marked spot we play for tournaments and stuff, and you're taking your buddies out there just to show them for the first time, and your friend throws it in from there. That's kind of an ace. Like, there's so many definitions of what. Basically, is it your first? No. Did you throw it in?
From the intended tee area to the basket. That's what I would clarify.
That's an ace. And you did that. And I remember, I forget who we were arguing with about it. Even 20 years ago, someone's like, well, that's not really an ace because he wasn't on the tee pad. I'm like,
well, I mean,
threw it in one.
Let's just play pretend and say, if we'll say all four of us that were out there agreed, hey, we're not going to throw from this spot because it's wet or it's muddy or it's underwater. We're not going to throw from this spot. All four of us instead are going to move over 5 feet or 20 feet or 30 feet. At that point, that becomes the new tee. So at that point, I would then deem it an ace.
Yeah.
So yes, to answer you.
And someone says it has to be, I don't agree that it has to be in a competitive round. If I'm out there and I say, hey, guess what? I'm going to go out and practice. I'm going to throw one disc on every hole, and I'm just going to practice like it's a tournament.
Okay. Yeah. See here.
And then you throw it in. Because you're treating it that way? Does it have to be competitive against other people? Are you competitive against yourself? I don't like that designation. Yes, you're throwing it.
Ryan Pilcher says no, it was a misplay. No, good one. No, and so I'll here's
I agree with that.
A quick one on the idea of has to be competitive. I again totally disagree because we have exhibition aces. Mm-hmm. So when Seppo Paiu threw from the dock in 2011, and he threw from the pier over at Santa Cruz and threw it 400 feet onto the basket that was there, and threw it in and won $500 for it. Was that not an ace? Because that I would say that anyway. I think back to a number of years ago. We're at a local park where I used to sell discs and run the leagues and all sorts of things. And it's on top of a hill, and I used to hang out on the top and have hundreds of discs out, offering them up for people to purchase them. And every once in a while, a group would walk up. This is a busy course. A group would walk up or be hanging out, whatever. And someone said, I would get bored. I would be sitting there for anywhere from 1 to 6 hours, depending on what was going on. And if a group walked up, and I may strike up a conversation or whatever the case might be, at one point, it became a thing where I was like, oh, hey, I see you've got such, can I throw one of your discs? They're about to start their round. Someone hands me a disc and I look at it, whatever. I get up and I throw it, and it's one of the longer holes on the course. It is like, I don't know, 280 feet, but downhill. And I throw it in. I mean, there's a whole group of people around, all standing around because that's where the course starts.
Glory
and I throw
hog.
it in, just whatever. Is that not an ace? I mean, tee to pin. I mean, I wasn't about to go play 17 more holes no matter what. I was just hanging out there, and somebody handed me a random disc. I've never seen her thrown before, and I throw it in. I'm sorry, I think that's an ace as well.
Yeah, because people can get all sorts of nitpicky if your course, again, what if your course has 3 tee pads and the shortest one meant for recreational players is, like you said, 23 meters. That's still an ace. Or is it only count if it's an ace if it's from the pro pad that's 120 meters. I hate using meters. I have to
think about the actual math for it.
I just, again, wherever you guys intend to throw from to wherever the basket is, sure, that's an ace to me. If you want to sit and call putts aces, I don't care. I'm not here to judge you. Like that's that's great. I don't care.
Oh, and to move off that top subject, Nathaniel did say, well, you always call it an ace. Might be a practice ace, a cubby ace, a tournament ace, an ace race ace. It's still an ace.
Agreed.
Yeah, there might be certain qualifiers to it, but when there's only one tee provided and there's only one pin provided, and you throw it there in the first shot, it may not be impressive. It may not be one you're gonna, go get a pin made for or a trophy made up for, but there's no other term for it.
Yeah,
so
it's not a wall hanger at that point.
Yeah, correct. But
Marcus says yes. From now on, everything under 100 feet is known as an Avery ace. Coming from one of the guys who used to be one of the furthest throwing people in our sport, I find some very good humor in that. You got an Avery ace. No, that's cool. Let's make that stick, people. Avery would like that.
Well, Disc Golf Comedy did you see?
I did see how
he took his jab, his comedic jab at it as well. But the funny part is, I'm sure that took him far more tries than Avery.
I think he said it took him 17 or something. I don't remember offhand.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Tyler.
Now, I will say I did leave Norway a disc golf champion. Not because of my lack of aces, and not because I'm a PCS winner. First basket winner. International first basket Norwegian champion for the 2019 PCS Open. I taught Brage, Seifert, and Avery, all 4 of them, or all 3 of them, myself was the 4th, taught them the little game that we've been playing since the late 90s, which is appropriately named First Basket. The rules are pretty simple. Anytime all of the traveling members are coming to a course that is new to all of them, the first basket that is seen by any single individual in the car just simply has to yell out and ideally point to
first basket.
The first basket that's seen. It doesn't have to be hole 1. You just yell first basket to the first basket that's seen.
20 years I've been dealing with this.
I'm not saying I'm the best at
25.
it. I'm just saying
I think you are, but
I've
played with you for 25 years, and I can probably count the number of times on 2 hands I've probably won this game.
I'm pretty good. I
do, yeah.
And I think we played. I don't recall what.
Half the time you forget, and they're like, "Oh, I think it's close around here." I forget at least. Then Terry's like, "First basket." I'm like, "Oh yeah, we're playing that."
Yeah,
and that's on me. That's on me.
And I'm pissed because one of the times they got me this week when we were in Norway, it was like their 3rd or 4th course, and I didn't know we were going to a course because we would drive for an hour or 2. We'd maybe do some sightseeing, or not sightseeing, or we'd stop and see something. We'd maybe stop for something. We'd get on a ferry, or we'd play a course. And I didn't know there was another course that was literally 15 more minutes away. So Avery nor I were even really paying attention. And all of a sudden, we're at a spot, and Brage or Seifert, one of the 2, yelled first basket. I was like, I didn't even know we were in the realm of.
Too bad.
Yeah, I wanted to put in an official complaint
No.
and a dispute for that, which would have went to me.
No, I don't
Because
think
I
it
think
would've.
I'm the official, the disputer of said game.
So you're the judge as well.
Yes.
That's great.
But
That's
no,
great.
they got me fair and square. I mean, you get caught sleeping.
Yeah. And there's been plenty of times. There's been plenty of times I have been caught sleeping, and there's plenty of times where I pretend like I'm not paying attention, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah,
don't-
you
I
still.
don't want. Them to
And it
think I'm
doesn't
okay.
matter because some will say, well, that's not fair. What if you're driving? What if you're the passenger? What if you're sitting in the back seat? It doesn't matter. There is an advantage or disadvantage to all
Each-
four of those positions
Correct.
and what you're doing.
Yeah, because most of the time you're not playing the game, or you're not doing anything outside of the game to give yourself an advantage. It's not like you're purposefully driving in the park on a specific side.
Yeah.
You just follow the directions into the park, and cool. Oh, there's first basket, and it might be the driver because he's a little bit in front of passenger seat.
But it could be
it could
off
be-
behind at an angle that the driver didn't see.
It totally could, and these are the stupid games we play. If you have a travel partner who you've traveled with for a long time, I hope you have these stupid games as well.
It's fun. And I would like to think. Now, Avery, who has played more courses than 99% of the population, you would think A, would be good at it, and B, man, if he would have started playing this 20 years ago, he could potentially have the title.
He'd have the title. He'd be the champion.
But
he got into the game late.
I got the best of them. Yeah, I had to show him a few things in Norway.
I understand. That's weird, and I don't think I want to know, but
the beds are smaller in Norway. Side note. And I recognize this in Finland. Of course, America is supersized like myself, but the beds are definitely smaller. So even like your twin bed it feels more cot-sized than anything. And when you then have a king or a larger bed or a double bed, they literally just put the two cot-sized beds together. So something to keep note of. They also do their sheets and their blankets weird. So instead of having everywhere we stayed in Norway, you don't have a sheet. You have a sheet on your bed, mattress, right?
Like a fitted sheet?
Yeah, like a fitted
Okay.
sheet. Then there's no single regular sheet
that you would normally lay
like
under.
crawl under.
Yep.
And then your blanket has its own, I guess duvet is kind of the word. But your heavier blanket, like a down blanket, is more like it's used as like it's like an oversized pillowcase. It has a casing to it.
Okay, it's like a duvet.
Yeah, so it's a duvet. But there's no single sheet.
Okay.
They skip that sheet.
I mean,
It's just kind of weird.
I lived like that for a little while in an apartment.
I think everybody did, especially as a kid. You're like, these stupid. I hated the individual sheet as a kid.
I was in college. Like
You just skip that. You're like, why do I need that anyway?
Yeah, like this is one more thing to wash.
Yeah. And then you become more civilized, and you're like, oh, well, I see. I need a sheet, and then a bed.
And now for me, the sheet is vital because in hot days, I like to just have the sheet, and that's just how it works. I always need something to cover me up. I just don't like sleeping without something on my leg or on my chest or whatever. And a light sheet is a perfect thing for that.
I've seen no individual light sheets there.
Yeah.
What's going on, Scandinavia?
Looking at you.
This is what we have the podcast for. All right.
After show. Anything else out there on the board that we need to address or
some more talk of the aces? Well, you can start getting things ready for the
yeah.
giveaway.
Good
I
call.
will give an update, as I know I do every week, where I tell you I'm almost caught up. But this week, I sent out 8, 10, 12 packages today. Many of you I emailed. Some of you I messaged or had to get a clarification or whatever the case might be. But I am in a much better place. We are in a much better place here at SmashBoxx. It's just a matter of always sitting down and kind of doing these, usually in somewhat of a batch process, or I'm gone for 20 out of 28 days. So getting all of our giveaways together does not take a top priority. I apologize, but today I did some serious catch up on our Patreon giveaways. So please, if you ever win something, look for an email. It may come from myself or Johnny. We always want to just confirm your shipping address, because I'd hate to send that disc or that shirt or that $100 bill to the wrong address. And all of that has happened.
You're sending $100 bills. I might start winning.
No. Chris says, geez, I'm over here in bed without that sheet. Yeah, well, Chris, you live like a crazy person. Maybe not. I do want to give another quick shout out. I mentioned all the amazing people, Seifert and Brage, specifically, along with Uran, Avery, Eagle. I got to spend some time with Luca and with Tommy, who are from Norway, also shared some space with them, and Pat McMahon. Let me ask you this, though, Johnny.
Yeah.
Eagle has won, I think, 2 or 3 big events this year.
Okay.
Beaver State Fling, does that come to mind? Is that one of them?
Yes.
I got to look myself up.
He won Beaver State Fling.
Okay. The 2 out of the 3 largest events that he's won this year are events where I roomed in the same house with him.
I don't like where this is
Just
going.
coincidence?
Yes.
Just pure coincidence.
Yes.
Once in Arizona for the Memorial.
Yes.
And Norway. Both times I'm there, both times he wins.
I'm going to go with still yes.
Okay. I'm not asking for a kickback. I'm not asking for any.
You probably are. But, okay.
But just saying. Eagle, you're welcome.
All right. I am ready.
Did you see the video posted from Norway about the hot tub?
I saw that there was a hot tub on the course, but I've not seen anything other than.
So hole number 1.
Yep. There's
a hot tub 4 feet from the tee. So whether you want to use a post round or pre-round or during the round, the seated
during the round,
the seating
get in
section, yes, that happened actually. So the prime seating area and or relaxing area allows you to sit in the hot tub while watching people tee off on hole 1 at the course. I don't think we've seen that in any other event, but and also one of the cool CTP giveaways or CTP prizes they had from the year before was your CTP earned you a weekend in the RV, which was also then parked right there at hole 1. So where you got to come and stay for the weekend was right there at the course, set up in a really nice RV right there at the course. So that was awesome to see. Avery won the putting contest 2nd year in a row. Last year he won it. It was a 43-inch TV. Flat screen TV was the putting competition.
That's awesome. I don't know how you get that home. But
he donated it back to the event,
yeah.
So gracious of him. This year, they upped it slightly.
44-inch TV.
Nope. $1,000.
That doesn't stay then. I take that.
Yeah, he did not donate that back.
I would buy a drink for some people.
Yeah, so again, I can't say enough about it. Amazing event. All right, we've got a giveaway, Johnny.
We do have a giveaway. We have, what is that, Terry, again?
This is a Saint Pro.
With the Tear Bear stamp on it.
The Tear Bear stamp on it. I do have some more of these for purchase, along with gladiators and daggers and a bunch of other good stuff. Compass comes to mind.
Fantastic. So if you want to be eligible for this weekly giveaway, you can go to patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. And for as little as $1 a month, you are automatically entered into our contest. If you'd like to get into the contest otherwise, you can go to smashboxx.tv/weekly giveaways. I believe is what it is. Maybe it's weekly giveaway. I don't remember. But we pull those in. There was like 3 people this week that put that in, so everyone is eligible. It's pretty simple. Help us, we help you. We like to give stuff away.
Giving stuff away.
So
thousands of dollars of stuff every year is given away.
This week we have 206 people that are eligible for the giveaway. What number, Terry, should we pick for our random giveaway?
It was the 4th year of the PCS Open.
So we're going to do 4?
So we're going to do 4.
All right. So
I like that.
So the first number is 24. Second number is 72. Third number is 169. Fourth number is 141.
$141,
It's
Johnny.
too far away on the other screen. I'm going to bring it in a little closer. we have Mike Schwartz. Mike Schwartz. He's right there. For those of you that want to see, Mike Schwartz. Congratulations. Whoop, there we go. You will be getting an email from myself or Terry Miller about making sure that we have everything we need for you. And congratulations on your winning disc.
I have a 174 gram Saint Pro. So that's what we'll be sending out here. Hopefully sooner than later as well.
Mike Schwartz is at the clothing level, so you should be getting a polo shirt pretty soon too. So thank you, Mike Schwartz. Much appreciated. Out of Latham, New York.
All right. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you
very much, Mike. We appreciate it. All right. So we've talked about the media, various media. We've talked about the last couple big events upcoming in the next few weeks. Obviously USDGC, but then immediately following USDGC, we're going to see the Hall of Fame Classic. Immediately following that, we're at the Disc Golf Pro Tour
finale in Charlotte at Hornets Nest.
So excited about that, of course. We're going to see play there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Slightly different change, and we'll get more details on that in the next couple of weeks, but a little bit of a change up from what we've seen over the last few years. And I know the last few years we were blessed to be at the New World Sports Complex down in Florida, in Jacksonville, but this year things are going to be heading over to Charlotte. So we've got that in the works. And then shortly after that, things finally slow down at least a little bit here. Not for myself. I'm excited. I'll be heading over to Croatia and then some other countries and other places after that, but super excited for it. So plenty of golf, plenty of things to talk about, plenty of things to unfold here in the next few weeks. And coverage. Lots of coverage coming out. I've got the Rocky Mountain women's coverage edited. It's been edited for a little while now. We're just trying to get some commentary laid on that. Nantucket, almost all of that's edited. Also just needs commentary. And then right in line right after that will be the PCS Open. So on my end, with all this crazy traveling and whatnot, you're just going to see this just stream of footage just continue to unfold. And then we've got bonus footage after that I'm not even going to mention and get people worked up about. But there'll be additional bonus footage after that from 3 to 5 other events that I still have.
You should just release each one
every day?
Every day at the USDGC at about 1:30.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Like just prime time.
And then maybe name them. It'll say USDGC 2019 USDGC
released
and then it'll say in parentheses event just prior to.
Exactly. See how many people are like, what the?
Oh my gosh, would people lose it?
Yeah, people would lose it.
That would be awesome.
That'd be very funny though.
It would be funny, although people would lose their minds.
Yep.
So, gosh, you got anything else?
I don't. I think we're pretty good here.
Okay. Well, if you're good, I'm good. We're all good. It's been great. Things have certainly slowed down on the chat board. You guys all of a sudden just went really quiet. Are they still alive? Still listening? Still watching?
They're still out there.
Still like 30,000 people watching.
Yeah, well,
give or take.
Now that you
29,000.
900.
Yeah, USDGC precursor event. That's what I'll call it.
There you go, missing letter. Let's call it that.
USDGC precursor. Well, we wish them the best of luck. And again, we'll have hopefully Jay Redding. And I feel like there was 1 or 2 other people that we were talking about locking in for next week. It's going to be the eve of the USDGC. So clearly there's going to be a lot of good conversation going on. They'll, as in the last few years, they'll just be getting out of the USDGC player meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Right as our show is going on. A few years ago, we got to think back to that's right when the World Tour was announced.
I was going to ask, are we going to hear any big announcements at USDGC? And I kind of feel like right after the tour finale, do you know what it becomes? Speculation season. Players moving, sponsors.
Where's Antonio Brown going to be next year?
He's going to be the same place the Cubs are going to be in about 3 days. Unemployed.
What?
Yeah,
we'll see about that.
No, it's not. I mean, the magic number is like 2. But yeah, I'm wondering if we're gonna have. I can't imagine this year's off season is going to be anywhere near as exciting as last year.
No, I mean,
I think you're gonna maybe we'll hear like what Ricky had said, maybe one or two, or no, I think she was Eric had said that they were talking to some people, and we might see one or two names bounce around that that maybe we didn't expect, but there's no way it can match or even reach what we saw last year with the moves between Ricky.
Yeah,
and
the number 1 and number 2 players.
Yeah, so
switching spots.
I'm excited though. I always like that season.
Yeah,
it's like kind of like the off season.
That would be really awkward if Eric got kicked off like Team Whale Pants or her Team Whale Sacks.
Yeah, that would be.
That
weird.
would be so. That'd be funny
Tina
if
sits
she
him down.
said,
She's like,
yeah.
You've just the last few weeks you haven't really. I mean, I've talked it over with the CEO. That's me, and we're gonna pull your sponsorship.
Oh my gosh, that'd be hilarious if she came out with an announcement, like did a full blown press release of like Eric Oakley dropped from the team
and just said Team Whale.
Yeah,
that's a good April Fool's joke she can pull. Like Eric Oakley dropped from Team Whale. Everyone's like, what? It used to be Whale Pants.
We challenge you that on that one. All right, guys, we're gonna call it. We appreciate you, all of the love and the support. All we're saying is give peace a chance. Go out and support the USDGC in whatever way that you feel
buy a disc
most appropriate. Buying
watch
a disc,
the pay-per-view,
donate directly to
the charities,
to Edge or
Throw Pink or
Chains for
if they're doing-
Charity,
are they
all
doing
that.
Throw Pink again this year.
Yep, Throw Pink,
all that stuff.
Watch the coverage. Don't watch the coverage. Whatever you see appropriate. Just
send me $100.
Try and be nice and polite and cordial and keep an open mind and know that we're all trying to grow the sport, just all trying to get there in different ways, and we got to try everything at one time or another. I think that's what she said. All right, for Johnny V, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, that's been Podcast After Show 266. We love you guys. We love our Patreon supporters and our Super Chatters
more
than the rest of you, but we still love all of you. We'll see you next week when you step inside the Smash Box.